Chapter 196. Right now you are a prisoner. What qualifications do you think you have to make demands? Moreover, many people in the court already know your identity. No matter what your original intention was, the one who pushed you to this point was not others, but yourself. Xinyu said. You are right. Grand Tutor Zeng froze, his momentum waning. It is nothing more than deceiving myself. The previous emperor left behind 500,000 soldiers and horses. I can only mobilize half of them. I don't know where the rest are. He also left behind a large amount of money and jewelry. I can only take 30% of it. Oh right, this batch of property includes a large number of armor left behind by the once invincible Lin family army. Grand Tutor Zeng explained a lot. Xinyu and Shang Junlin stayed in the prison for more than 2 hours before leaving. Sitting in the carriage back to the palace, Xinyu held a hand stove. Your Majesty, how much of Grand Tutor Zeng's words are true and how much is false? Xinyu didn't think that Grand Tutor Zeng would reveal all the truth because of one caning. If it was really that simple, Fong Darren wouldn't have asked for so long without any useful information. No matter how much of it is true and how much of it is false, Zhen will send people to verify it one by one. Although he said the arrangements left behind by the previous emperor, he didn't say where these undiscovered arrangements are. Only he knows if he really doesn't know or if he deliberately doesn't say. Xinyu nodded. Let Fong Darren continue to interrogate him. Maybe he can find something. Xinyu originally wanted to take this opportunity to see the King of Yu, but he had been delayed at Grand Tutor Zeng's place for too long. The sky was almost dark. In addition, Shang Junlin didn't want him to see the King of Yu, so he didn't go. After returning to Yuzhang Palace, Eunuch Meng hurriedly ordered people to prepare hot water. Xinyu took a comfortable bath and changed into clean clothes. Shang Junlin also changed into light clothes. If he didn't need to go to court, he wouldn't wear a complicated ceremonial robe. Instead, he preferred simple casual clothes. A man in a black wide-sleeved robe sat on the edge of a soft couch. In front of him was a small table with a thick stack of memorials. The man's back was straight as he wrote his comments. He was very fast and placed the booklets to the side. After a few books, Eunuch Meng would take them down and place them on the table on the other side. It was very warm in the bedroom. Xinyu had just finished bathing and was wearing thin clothes. Hearing footsteps, Shang Junlin looked up. He put down his pen, picked up his cloak, and walked toward Xinyu. Why are you wearing so little? I'm not cold. Xinyu raised his neck, so that the man could tie the belt of his cloak for him. Even if you're not cold, you can't wear such thin clothes. Yes, Your Majesty. Shang Junlin nodded in satisfaction. Xinyu was hugged by the man, and sat down on the soft couch. She happened to see the half-approved memorials on the small table. They were presented by the officials of Lin County. After a year of hard work, the flood control in Lin County was very effective. This year's spring flood was the best time to check the results. After getting a used prescription, the people I sent to Lin County to control the flood were treated as if they had found a treasure. This year, they followed the contents of the prescription. Last year, several small floods were passed without any mishaps. Shang Junlin stroked Xinyu's long hair on her back. It's good that it's effective. Xinyu's eyes curved. The reason why he took out these things was because they could be of use to De Huan. In the face of a natural disaster, human strength would always be insignificant. However, not all natural disasters could only make people helpless. Some could be prevented in advance to minimize the losses as much as possible. After the beginning of spring, the imperial court fell into a new round of busyness. The reform of the new commercial law was proposed at this time. Unsurprisingly, there were many objections in the imperial court. Any reform would have to go through this. Xinyu accepted it well. Shang Junlin ignored the arguments in the imperial court for a few days, and finally agreed to the reform proposed by the Minister of Revenue. Your Majesty, you can't. Compared to the previous dynasty, De Huan already gives preferential treatment to merchants. We can't let them grow. The Minister of Revenue was dissatisfied. Have you carefully read the proposal I proposed? If you have carefully read it, you will never say such a thing. If you want to object, I welcome it. However, the reason for your objection must be substantial. Don't just think about it. The official did not carefully read the new commercial law proposed by the Minister of Revenue. He was speechless by the Minister of Revenue's words. Well, this matter will be handed over to the Minister of Revenue. Is there anything else to report? Shang Junlin's attitude was very clear. Since this matter had been decided, there was no need to talk nonsense. The first thing to do in the new year was to change the law regarding merchants. In fact, there were not many changes. For example, the son of a merchant could not enter the imperial court as an official. However, there were some additions. For example, Yan Zheng's previous actions of sponsoring the Ministry of Works to build roads and merchants from all over Subei had been approved by the imperial court. The imperial court would give them preferential treatment based on their contributions. After an entire winter, the stone tablet engraved with the contributions of the donors was carved. In the future, it would be placed in the most conspicuous place in the capital. It would be protected by a fence so that the common people could go and see it. The People's newspaper did a special report on this matter, including the change of the commercial law. The common people did not pay much attention to the latter. Their attention was focused on the former matter. The People's newspaper said that the stone tablet has been engraved. It will be displayed on the auspicious day chosen by the imperial astronomer. I saw it too. There are only 10 days left. I must go and see it then. I donated a lot of things. Thinking that my name will be engraved by the imperial court, I am so excited. Yes, we are just common people. Who would have thought that there would be a day like this? For a time, the common people's hot topic changed to the stone tablet that was about to be completed. They followed the disaster in Subei. Seeing that Subei, which they had contributed money and effort to, become better and better after the disaster, everyone felt satisfied. Who didn't want to be rewarded for their efforts? Although the reward wasn't anything substantial, it could give people a great sense of satisfaction. Oh right, today is the day that the Jing'an newspaper is published. Are you going to buy it? Of course, this newspaper is cheap. It even has a special section for literacy. Not to mention, I can barely understand some of it now. Me too. If you buy 10 copies of the newspaper, you can get a free literacy book. Including the one I buy tomorrow, I can get a book. My son is about to learn literacy. It will be useful. I never thought that I'd be literate one day. Maybe in the future His Majesty will hold a big literacy program and every family will be literate. In the past, the common people didn't think much about literacy. Since the publication of the newspaper, they gradually felt the disadvantages of being illiterate. Now that there was a way to become literate and the price was not expensive, the common people who had some extra money were happy to learn. The Jing'an newspaper that the common people talked about was a newspaper jointly published by Xinyu's bookstore and the imperial court. It was cheap and published once every 10 days. Later, after discussion between Xinyu and Shang Junlin, they opened a special section in the newspaper. It was not big, but it would put some basic words for the purchasers to learn. The aristocratic ministers were busy with various things in the imperial court and didn't notice the changes in the common people. When they found out, the foundation had already been laid. Even if they were dissatisfied, they couldn't do anything. King Yu was dreaming again. He knew that he was dreaming because the development in the dream was completely different from reality. In the dream, all his plans were carried out smoothly. Under his plan, Shang Junlin's reputation was getting worse and worse. The most important thing was that Xinyu didn't enter the palace. The one who entered the palace was Shen Qingran, the son of a concubine of Count Jinbei. From the beginning to the end, no one in the palace was conferred the title of nobility. In this dream, the person that Xinyu fell in love with was him. The camp that he chose was also him. Xinyu went back to his fief with him and took care of everything for him. Under the tyrannical rule of Shang Junlin, a steady stream of people came to seek refuge with him. They brought a lot of money and soldiers. In the dream, it was as if he had the help of God. Everything went smoothly. He saw Shang Junlin lose little by little. The imperial court's prestige collapsed, and his own power grew stronger and stronger. Time passed quickly in the dream. He saw a major flood in a neighboring county. He stepped forward bravely at the critical moment. He saw a plague break out in the south. He led people to get rid of the plague. The The people gradually shifted to him. The northern bandits rebelled. Shang Junlin led troops to battle. He died in the last battle. Since then, the world was in chaos. He ascended the throne with the support of the people. Then he woke up from the dream. The night before his ascension, he was woken up by the jailer. For the next few days he repeatedly had the same dream. Without exception, he woke up on the night before his ascension. At first, the dream was vague. Later, it became more and more real. It was so real that he couldn't help but wonder if things would develop like in his dream if Xin Yu didn't enter the palace. The jailer who was guarding King Yu realized that King Yu had started to speak nonsense. It was all disgraceful words. He did not dare to hide it and reported this matter. King Yu went crazy. People who don't know will think that we are abusing him. Shang Junlin listened to the report and sneered. Xin Yu sat on the side and fiddled with a chess record. The chess record was found in the Imperial Library. Seeing that Xin Yu was interested, Shang Junlin gave it to him. What did he do? Xin Yu put down the chess record and asked. Replying to Your Highness, the prisoner has been talking nonsense in the prison, he said. The Minister of Justice glanced at Shang Junlin and bravely continued. That he is about to ascend the throne. Your Majesty, please forgive me. This subject is just repeating. We didn't do anything. Why are you so afraid? Shang Junlin was displeased. The Minister of Justice thought. You didn't do anything. But with the cold air around you, I would believe you if you said that you were going to drag me out and behead me. Tell me the details. Yes. Some time ago, King Yu's behavior was not quite right. The jailer didn't take it seriously. In recent days, the jailer found that he often talked nonsense. Something about the flood in Lin County, the plague in the south, the rebellion of the northern bandits. Finally, he said that he was the one who ended everything and that he should be the destined ruler of Dahuan. Xin Yu didn't take it seriously at first. The more he listened, the more he felt that something was wrong. A single incident could be a coincidence. What if everything was related to the previous life? His heart sank unconsciously. Was King Yu talking about the previous life? Was he also reborn? Your Highness, do you know why King Yu said such things? Xin Yu's hands slowly clenched by his side. It was because he was dreaming. I have confirmed that what King Yu said was in his dream. He seems to be unable to distinguish between dreams and reality. The Minister of Justice said. Did he dream of the previous life? Xin Yu fell silent. According to the Minister of Justice, he didn't seem to dream of the previous life. Otherwise, he wouldn't be immersed in the dream and not wake up. Should he tell him to turn the dream into a nightmare? Chapter 197. Xin Yu was thinking about something and didn't notice that the Minister of Justice had left under Shang Junlin's signal. He also didn't notice that Shang Junlin had walked to his side. What is you thinking about? Shang Junlin looked at Xin Yu, who had fallen into silence after listening to the Minister of Justice's words, and his expression was unclear. I'm thinking about what the Minister of Justice said. Is Prince Yu pretending to be crazy or acting dumb? Xin Yu came back from his thoughts. Shang Junlin. You thinks he's pretending? Xin Yu. What else could it be? Your Majesty once locked him up in the dark prison for so long, but nothing happened to him. How could he go crazy after just a few days in the Ministry of Justice's prison? Shang Junlin. Yu's words make sense. Xin Yu. Whether he's really crazy or not, we'll know when we see him. Shang Junlin fell silent and looked at Xin Yu without saying anything. Your Majesty, why are you looking at me? Xin Yu opened his eyes wide with an innocent look on his face. Shang Junlin raised his hand to cover his eyes and said with an inexplicable emotion. So you wants to see Prince Yu? I'm a little concerned about his dream. Xin Yu didn't deny it. I want to know what's going on. I remember that you also had a dream before. When he woke up and saw me, he was very scared. What did you dream about that day? Shang Junlin couldn't forget this matter, because the emotions that appeared in Xin Yu's eyes that day were something he had never seen before. A person's eyes couldn't lie. If he was really afraid of someone, no matter how well he pretended, there would still be clues in his eyes. He was sure that Xin Yu wasn't afraid of him. When they first met, Xin Yu didn't show any fear in his eyes. Later, when they met day and night for a long time, He didn't see any fear in Xinyu's eyes. No matter how good a person was at disguising himself, it was impossible for him to not leave behind any flaws for a long time. I had a bad dream. I didn't see His Majesty in the dream, so I woke up in fright. To be honest, that dream didn't have much to do with the previous life. Rather than saying that it was related to the previous life, it was better to say that Xinyu was afraid that he would follow in the same footsteps in this life. Shang Junlin didn't care about Prince Yu, but if this matter was related to Xinyu, he couldn't ignore it. Hence, he instructed the hidden dragon guards to get information about the dream from King Yu no matter what method they used. Perhaps he dreamt of what he thought about during the day. That night, Xinyu dreamt of something related to his previous life. The flames of war swirled in the air as the sounds of killing shook the heavens. He was protected in someone's arms as they passed through the rain of blades and swords. At first, he thought that the person protecting him was Gu Huai from his previous life. Later on, he realized that it was wrong. The time and place were not right. He had never had such close contact with Gu Huai before. The two of them only had a cooperative relationship. Other than the necessary interactions, Gu Huai rarely took the initiative to talk to him. However, the man in his dream was different. His mouth opened and closed as if he was talking nonstop. Xinyu wanted to hear him clearly, but it was as if there was a layer of cover. No matter how anxious he was, he couldn't hear him. The weather was very cold. It seemed like it was snowing. He curled up in the man's arms and absorbed the only warmth he could. In the darkness, Xinyu suddenly opened his eyes. His waist was restrained and his back was leaning against a heat source. The warmth kept coming. It was exactly the same as the feeling in his dream. Xinyu smiled silently. No wonder he had such a dream. In the dream, they were in a world of ice and snow, isolated and helpless. Outside the dream, they were hugging each other and sleeping in a warm palace. It was so nice. Xinyu turned around and sniffed the man's scent that made him feel at ease. He slowly closed his eyes. The arm around his waist pulled him closer to his chest. When they woke up the next day, it was drizzling outside. The spring rain continued, and the plants grew new branches and leaves. They were verdant and lush, and the grass by the roadside bloomed with white flowers. Xinyu held an umbrella in one hand and strolled in the rain. The orchids that young master planted have bloomed. Do you want to go and take a look? Mushi followed behind him and whispered. Xinyu turned around. I saw that there were no buds 2 days ago, and now they're blooming? Yes, several of them have bloomed. The ant in charge of taking care of the flowers and plants told me this morning. Mushi knew that her young master liked to grow flowers, so she deliberately mentioned it. All right, let's go and take a look. The flower house was not far from where they were, and they arrived after walking for about a quarter of an hour. Instead of calling it a flower house, it was more appropriate to call it a flower hall. Most of the flowers inside were sent by Shang Junlin. Xinyu grew flowers as a hobby. He did not care whether the flowers were expensive or not. The flowers sent by Shang Junlin were the same. He sent all the suitable ones that he thought Xinyu would like. It's really strange. The flower sent by Prince An has bloomed for almost half a year, but there are no signs of it withering. The flower was in a conspicuous position. Mushi saw it as soon as she came in. Xinyu looked up. It's blooming beautifully. As if it understood Xinyu's praise, the flower swayed gently. Xinyu looked around and saw the flower that Mushi was talking about. He walked over. When the flower was sent by His Majesty, it was withered. Look, young master, it's full of vitality now. The flowers in the flower house were carefully taken care of. Not to mention that Xinyu personally took care of them. But the fact that these flowers belonged to Xinyu made the palace servants dare not be careless. Now, everyone in the palace knew how much His Majesty was favored. Serving His Majesty well would have a better future than serving in other places. Xinyu walked around the flower house and asked, "What's the situation outside the palace?" Mushi. Everything in the Marquis mansion is as usual. Duke Xinbei and his confidants have secret talks in the study room every day. Inghuo's people found a way to sneak in, and found that they were talking about how to get Duke Xinbei back to work in the imperial court. Xinyu. Duke Xinbei has always valued the development of the Marquis mansion. Now that he has been stripped of his position, and Shen Qingran can't be relied on, He has to find a way to return to the imperial court. Mushi. Those confidants of Duke Shinbei seem to want Duke Shinbei to come to you for help. They said that with His Majesty's favor, as long as you are willing to speak, the predicament of the Duke Shinbei's mansion can be easily solved. Not only the Duke Shinbei's mansion, but other officials also said so. After Duke Shinbei lost power, not everyone drew a clear line with him at the first time. Some people thought that no matter what, Duke Shinbei was Xinyu's biological father. Xinyu couldn't leave him alone. What's more, if His Majesty really thought about His Majesty, he wouldn't let the Duke Shinbei's mansion decline like this. So in the beginning, several aristocratic families who wanted to marry Duke Shinbei's mansion didn't give up the idea because of this matter. It was only after Xinyu passed down the news that these families stopped. Xinyu, they are indeed right. His Majesty originally wanted to vent his anger. After this anger is vented, won't he restore Duke Shinbei's position? Then, young master, will Duke Shinbei's position really be restored? Mushi didn't want Duke Shinbei to enjoy the convenience brought by His Majesty at all. I can't control the affairs of the imperial court. Whether Duke Shinbei can be restored to his original position or not, only His Majesty knows. Speaking of this matter, Xinyu was also very curious about how Shang Junlin would deal with it. If it was a big mistake, Duke Shinbei didn't commit much. The matter of adoption was only mentioned verbally but not implemented. Of course, Xinyu wouldn't give him a chance to implement it. How is concubine Ru? Xinyu felt that he hadn't heard any news about this person for a long time. She lives in seclusion. It seems that she is completely disappointed with Duke Shinbei. Why do you suddenly ask about her? Mushi was puzzled. If I remember correctly, when concubine Ru came to the Duke Shinbei's mansion, my mother was still there. Ask Yinghua to go there and see if she can find out something about my mother. Yes. At the beginning of his rebirth, Xinyu just wanted to know the identity of the woman who gave birth to him. With the development of various things, he found that there were many secrets behind this matter. About the assassination when he was young, the framing at the New Year's banquet. If he didn't investigate clearly, no one knew what would happen one day in the future. Xinyu didn't like to be in a passive state. Knowing that someone wanted to kill him and hurt Shang Junlin, he couldn't be indifferent. In any case, he had to find out the truth of the matter, and find out the person who wanted to kill him. There was also Zhu Wang. He had to think of a way to pry open his mouth. Xinyu had a group of hidden dragon guards. It was given to him by Shang Junlin. He didn't hide the matter of investigating Zhu Wang from Shang Junlin, so he didn't use the power of Yinghua. Instead, he let the hidden dragon guards handle it. He knew that after he gave the order, Shang Junlin would know about it. So he took the initiative to mention this matter to Shang Junlin. Your Majesty, I want to investigate Zhu Wang's past. Maybe I can find some useful clues. They had too few clues. Xinyu knew that it would be difficult to investigate this matter. However, if he didn't find out the truth, he and Shang Junlin could only be in a passive state. This was something that he couldn't tolerate. You, just do whatever you want to do. You don't have to inform me. I gave you the hidden dragon guards. You have the right to order them around. I want to ask for your Majesty's help. I want to investigate all of Zhu Wang's past. However, it might not be easy to do so. Zhu Wang was locked up in the secret prison. For a long time, no one cared about him. The endless loneliness was the most torturous. He didn't talk to anyone for a long time. This made him want to talk to anyone he saw. Even if he was interrogated, he was willing to do so. After Shang Junlin heard about the dream realm from the hidden dragon guards, he was silent for a long time. For some reason, he didn't tell Xinyu immediately. Xinyu was still concerned about King Yu's dream realm. He told Shang Junlin that he wanted to meet King Yu. He's about to die. Does you want to meet him? Shang Junlin caressed Xinyu's face. His eyes were dark and gloomy. Has the Ministry of Justice decided on the time of his execution? Xinyu was stunned. In the end, Shang Junlin brought Xinyu to the Ministry of Justice's prison. Shang Junlin's behavior was a little abnormal. Xinyu thought that he was jealous of King Yu. He didn't think too much about it. He wanted to know what happened to King Yu as soon as possible. King Yu was getting more and more confused. When he saw Xin Yu and Shang Junlin, the first thing he said was, "Aren't you dead?" It was hard not to suspect that he did it on purpose. Xin Yu tilted his head and looked at Shang Junlin. The man's face was calm. He didn't seem affected by King Yu's words. "Your Highness, can you recognize me?" Xin Yu lowered his voice. It was similar to the tone he used in his previous life. "You." King Yu turned his head and looked at him. When the same title came out of King Yu's mouth, he felt disgusted. Xin Yu's eyes flashed with disgust. He felt the arm around his waist tighten. Xin Yu tilted his head and said, "Your Highness, I want to talk to him. Just one sentence." Although Shang Junlin was dissatisfied, he didn't refuse. Xin Yu walked in front of King Yu and squatted down. He said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Your Highness, how does it feel to have a sword pierced through your heart?" King Yu's blank expression was replaced by fear. No. King Yu died on the eve of his ascension. That was his real ending in his previous life. Chapter 198. The fog that had been covering his mind dispersed. King Yu finally remembered the last part of his dream. On the eve of his ascension to the throne, he was stabbed in the heart at the place closest to the throne. Until his death, he didn't really sit on the throne. At that time, Xin Yu also said the same thing. Now, the same words awakened the truth that he didn't want to face. It turned out that he didn't wake up at the most critical time in the dream, but he didn't want to believe the final result. Subconsciously, he chose to forget this memory. Xin Yu looked at King Yu's frightened appearance with satisfaction. He stood up straight and turned around without mercy. The hem of his cloak was grabbed and his movement was hindered. Xin Yu stopped, but he didn't look back. He heard King Yu's hoarse voice behind him. "How do you know? Those things are real, aren't they?" "So what if they are real? So what if they are fake? The result is the same." Xin Yu's voice was calm. His purpose of coming here had been achieved. He was now sure that King Yu was only dreaming about his previous life, and not like him, he was reborn. He was too familiar with the King Yu of his previous life. The one sitting at his feet now was not the same person. "You betrayed me twice, Xin Yu." "Why?" King Yu clenched the hem of his cloak tightly. He didn't want to let go. He wanted to know the answer. In his previous life, they had a good relationship. Xin Yu also devoted his heart to him. Why was it that in the end, it was Xin Yu who destroyed everything he had? King Yu couldn't understand. In his previous life, Shang Junlin didn't exist. Xin Yu didn't enter the palace. He didn't even have any relationship with this person. Why did he fail in the end? He was only one step away. Shang Junlin stood not far from the two of them, and heard their conversation clearly. The aura around him became extremely cold. The Minister of Justice, who was standing behind him, felt his heart in his throat. Did he hear some secret that he shouldn't know? Shang Junlin knew that Xin Yu had a lot of secrets. For example, he was obviously not valued by Count Jinbei, so why did he know so much that he shouldn't know? He didn't delve into it, because he knew that Xin Yu didn't want to talk about it. She was willing to show her differences in front of him, which showed her trust in him. Didn't Shang Junlin want to know Xin Yu's secret? No, he wanted to know more than anyone else. But he was willing to wait for the day when Xin Yu was willing to take the initiative to tell him. Shang Junlin had always thought that he could ignore it. He had always been the most patient hunter, but at this moment he realized that he could not do it. He could not remain indifferent to the fact that Xin Yu and the Prince of Yu had a common secret, especially when it was related to the dream that the Prince of Yu had. Shang Junlin had already gotten all the information about the dream from the hidden dragon guards. He couldn't imagine how Xin Yu would give everything to the Prince of Yu. He couldn't imagine how intimate the two of them might have been, even if it only happened in the dream. As long as he thought of those things, the ruthlessness in his heart would be like rolling waves, boiling endlessly. Shang Junlin walked over and stepped on the Prince of Yu's hand that was grabbing onto Xin Yu's clothes. Under the pain, the Prince of Yu had no choice but to let go. Shang Junlin hugged Xin Yu like an evil dragon declaring its sovereignty. A Yu is not someone you can covet. Do you think you are worth a Yu's betrayal? The sarcasm was like a sharp sword stabbing into the Prince of Yu's heart. The Prince of Yu laughed out loud. If he can treat me like this, he will treat you like this sooner or later. Shang Junlin, what are you so proud of? I will wait for the day when we end up in the same situation. Shin Yu felt helpless when he felt the grip on his waist tighten. He thought that Shang Junlin didn't know anything. Now, it seemed like that wasn't the case. The Prince of Yu struggled madly. Shang Junlin frowned. When the Minister of Justice saw this, he quickly ordered the guards to restrain the crazy Prince of Yu. Don't you have anything to say to me? The Prince of Yu struggled to look at Shin Yu. Why did you betray me? If it wasn't for the guards holding him down, he would have pounced on Shin Yu. Shin Yu sighed. What does the Prince of Yu want me to say? Other than the fact that I tried to get close to you using deception as an excuse. What else do I have to say? King Yu was stunned for a moment before he struggled even harder. He whimpered and mumbled some unclear words. Shin Yu had already settled the grudges from his previous life. Although the result was tragic, in this life, the Prince of Yu would pay the price for his crimes. Yu doesn't have anything to say to me? After returning to the palace, Shang Junlin dismissed the palace servants. Only Shin Yu and himself were left in the huge palace. Your Majesty knows the content of the Prince of Yu's dream? Shang Junlin nodded. Shin Yu looked at the man. Is your Majesty afraid? What is there to be afraid of? Shang Junlin stroked Shin Yu's face and gently stroked it. Even if a Yu is an immortal or a demon, he can only be mine. Shin Yu choked on the words he wanted to say. He originally wanted to ask if Shang Junlin was afraid that he would treat him like how he treated the Prince of Yu. However, when he heard Shang Junlin's words, he suddenly realized that Shang Junlin and Shang Junlin were two completely different people. Would Shang Junlin be afraid of him because of this? He already knew the answer in his heart. Actually, I also had the same dream as the Prince of Yu before I entered the palace. Shin Yu gently rubbed Shang Junlin's hand. After the first sentence came out, the following words were much easier to say. Since your Majesty knows the content of this dream, I won't go into detail. I don't know if this dream is real or not, but it doesn't prevent me from hating the Prince of Yu because of this dream. I hate being deceived and schemed against the most. So, Yu chose to do the opposite of what he did in the dream, right? Yes. Originally, when Shin Qingran and his mother schemed against me, I was bound to fight back. Now, I'm glad that I made the decision in the heat of the moment. Otherwise, how could I meet your Majesty? I'm also very glad. Shang Junlin pulled her into his arms. With a Yu, I can't imagine life without a Yu. In the dream, I was blind and couldn't see the true face of the Prince of Yu. I was deceived by him for so long. Shin Yu leaned into the man's arms and said in a muffled voice. What happened after that? What did a Yu say to the Prince of Yu that made him have such a big reaction? Shang Junlin gently patted Shin Yu's back. In a place where Shin Yu couldn't see, his eyes were dark. Of course, I shattered his dream. The Prince of Yu thought that he succeeded in ascending the throne in his dream. In fact, he didn't. I just let him know that whether it was in his dream or in reality, his ambition would be in vain in the end. Shang Junlin was an emperor himself. He knew how much he had to sacrifice in order to make the Prince of Yu's plan fail under such circumstances. His heart was split into two halves. Half of his heart was crazily jealous of the Prince of Yu in his dream. The other half was extremely distressed for Shin Yu's experience in his dream. Even if it was just a dream. This caused Shang Junlin's actions at night to be particularly unpredictable. He switched back and forth between being rough and extremely gentle. Shin Yu was tormented quite badly. He kicked her. Stay away from me. Unsurprisingly, her ankle fell into the palm of the man's hand. Under the gentle peck, her body couldn't help but tremble. Her tears couldn't be controlled and slid down her cheeks. The man patiently kissed her away. His movements were extremely gentle, as if the storm just now was an illusion of Shin Yu. Indulging in the gentleness, Shin Yu's resistance became weaker and weaker. You can only be mine. The same sentence was repeated over and over again in Shin Yu's ears, as if it was imprinted into his bones. You tell me, who do you belong to? Shin Yu replied randomly, I am your Majesty's. Yu is so obedient. The next day, when Shin Yu woke up, those words still lingered in his mind. It was as if a unique mark had been engraved in his mind, constantly reminding him that he only belonged to Shang Junlin. Thinking about what happened last night, Yu's face became hot. A jealous man really shouldn't be provoked. Fortunately, Shang Junlin didn't continue to ask about the dream. Yu lay on the bed and sighed as if his body was falling apart. At first, he considered whether or not he should take this opportunity to tell Shang Junlin about his rebirth. After hesitating for a while, he didn't say anything. He only said that he had the same dream as Prince Yu. He didn't know if Shang Junlin believed him or not. Rubbing his sore back, Yu was glad that he didn't tell the truth. It was just a dream, but it made the man have such a big reaction. If he told him that it really happened, he would most likely die in bed. 2 days later, Yu could barely get out of bed and walk normally. It was also the day to set the tombstone outside the palace. Shang Junlin agreed to take him to see it. The time to set the tombstone was calculated in advance by the imperial astronomer. In order to not miss it, Yu deliberately got up early in the morning. Shang Junlin stood behind him and helped him tie up his hair. Why are you so enthusiastic? There was a trace of undetectable grievance in his tone. Yu pretended that he didn't hear it, and focused on choosing the clothes to wear later. The location was at East Street. Early in the morning, the people who got the news in advance put down their work and came to watch. High officials, noble people, rich people, and ordinary people came from all walks of life. Some small vendors who saw business opportunities moved their stalls here to do business. Because there were so many people, business was very good. Because the number of people who came to watch far exceeded expectations, the imperial government had to borrow people from the imperial guards to maintain order. The carriage reached the corner and couldn't move forward anymore. The imperial guards in charge of maintaining order knew the identity of the person sitting in the carriage and didn't dare to neglect. They took a detour to the center of the street. Who is in the carriage? Didn't they say that the carriage is not allowed to pass? It must be a noble person. There are several officials who came today. I heard that the Minister of Works, the Minister of Revenue, Minister Fong, and other officials are all here. After the carriage drove for a distance, it stopped. Yu and Shang Junlin got off the carriage and went up to the attic under the guidance of the imperial guards. This was a place specially prepared for the rich and powerful. They couldn't squeeze with the ordinary people when the officials came. If something happened, no one could bear the responsibility. Shang Junlin had the status of Dahuan. Naturally, he chose the best place. Yu and Shang Junlin entered the inner room. Through the window, they could see the situation outside clearly. There are so many people. Yu sighed. In the center of the crowd, there was a huge tombstone covered with a red cloth. When the auspicious time came, the officials of the Ministry of Rites would lift the red cloth. The servants brought tea and all kinds of snacks. Yu picked up one and tasted it while looking down. Your Majesty, look. What is happening over there? Shang Junlin looked in the direction Yu pointed. He saw several imperial guards below them surrounding a husband and wife who were about 40 years old. He didn't know what they were talking about. Isn't this person the woman in the house we went to take shelter from the rain last time? Yu recognized the woman. Chapter 199. Yu still remembered that this woman made delicious snacks. Meng Chong, go and take a look. Seeing that Yu was concerned, Shang Junlin ordered. Eunuch Meng, who was waiting on the side, took the order and left. Eunuch Meng was a popular person serving the emperor. When they saw him, the guards all made way for him. Eunuch Meng, do you have something important to tell us? The couple also saw Eunuch Meng coming. The woman recognized Eunuch Meng and hurriedly stepped forward. She didn't know how to address this great eunuch who was respected by the guards, so her words were stuck. Why are you two here? Eunuch Meng took the initiative to speak to ease the awkwardness. The woman nudged the man with her elbow. The man reacted and took out the pouch in his arms. We are here to return this to you. It's too precious. Eunuch Meng didn't accept it. Since it's given to you, just accept it. Yu looked at what was happening below and wondered. Do they want to give something to Eunuch Meng? That pouch was left behind by Meng Chong before I left. It seems that they want to return it. People who practice martial arts had good eyesight. In addition, the couple was standing not far from here, so Shang Junlin could see what the man was holding in his hand. Thinking that eunuch Meng could handle this matter, Xinyu stopped paying attention and turned to the center of the crowd. The crowd below was surging, and all kinds of discussions were incessant. I've been looking forward to it since the day I got the news. I finally waited until today. Yes, in order to see this scene with my own eyes, I didn't set up my stall today. Many people didn't set up their stalls, or they closed their stalls early and came here. Fortunately, it's still the end of the year, so there aren't many things to do. I also brought my child here. This is a big event worth spreading. Xinyu noticed that there were not only adults below, but also many children. They should have been brought here by the adults. The guards who were transferred here did their best to maintain order. Although there were many people, there was no trouble. Time passed little by little, and the auspicious hour was getting closer and closer. Finally, the auspicious hour arrived. An official from the Ministry of Rights with a good reputation stepped forward and lifted the red cloth on the giant monument in front of everyone. The crowd began to stir. Those who were close tried to find their own names, but the stone tablet was too big, and there were too many words carved on it. It was undoubtedly a huge project to find their own names. The whole process didn't take long. After it was over, Xinyu and Shang Junlin went downstairs together. After going downstairs, they could hear the discussions of the people even more clearly. There were many words of praise for the emperor. The common people were all like this. They were easily satisfied. As long as they could live a stable life, they would feel that their days were better than the last. They would be grateful to those in power. Under the influence of Xinyu, Shang Junlin changed his previous style. Whenever something big or small happened in the imperial court, especially when it concerned the livelihood of the people, he would know about it through the people's reports. The Jing'an Daily had even opened a special section for the people to submit their opinions. The officials of various places in the Great Huan dynasty had also prepared suggestion boxes. If the people had any ideas, they could go up to the sky and listen. In the past, when people talked about Shang Junlin, most of their words were words that they did not understand. Now when they talked about him, they were basically praising him. Xinyu was very satisfied with this change. The couple saw Xinyu and Shang Junlin coming downstairs from the crowd. The two had an extraordinary bearing. The woman recognized their backs. She held the purse in her hand, her eyes flashing with complex emotions. Are those the nobles who came to our house to take shelter from the rain? Yes. Since the nobles are unwilling to accept it, we'll keep the money for now. In the future, it might be able to help others, the man said. Don't spend the money recklessly. I know. After the people behind the scenes were caught, the forces behind the king of you were dealt with one by one. After Gu Huai cleaned up the forces on the surface, he returned to the capital to report. The weather gradually warmed up. The new business laws were implemented in an orderly manner. Because of the donation to Subei as a foundation, other than a few stubborn old officials in the court, the implementation of the new business laws did not encounter many obstacles. Businessmen who could make it big were not fools. They knew better than anyone what kind of policies were good for them. After this, Yan Zheng's position in the business circle of the capital became more stable. During the time he stayed in the capital, he became close friends with Boss Jin. Because of the cooperation with Xinyu, he was destined not to stay in the capital forever. Just like now, after the weather warmed up, he prepared everything and needed to set off for Subei again. Before he set off, Xinyu gave him some information through shopkeeper Su. The people of Yinghua gradually gained a foothold in the northern desert, and the information was continuously sent back. Since they were collaborators, Xinyu was not stingy to give Yanzheng more convenience. In fact, Xinyu originally planned to meet him in person, but the emperor did not allow it. He thought about it and felt that there was no need to meet him in person. So he handed the matter over to shopkeeper Su. Compared to him, Yanzheng and shopkeeper Su communicated more. The two of them were more familiar with each other. When he came to the box, Yanzheng saw that shopkeeper Su was alone. He could not hide his disappointment, but he did not show it on his face. He warmly greeted shopkeeper Su. Shopkeeper Su pretended that he did not notice. In his line of work, he was used to seeing men and women. Yanzheng hid it very well, but as the two of them spent more time together, it was inevitable that they would find some clues. According to Xin Yu's instructions, shopkeeper Su told Yanzheng some things about the northern desert. Boss Yan, the situation in the northern desert may be very different from before. Other things are not important. Boss Yan, you should take care of yourself first. Only in this way can the cooperation last long, right? I know. I know what to do. This time I came back, but I didn't get to meet your son. This is a gift I brought back from the northern desert. Take it as a New Year's gift to your partner. The manservant standing behind Yanzheng came forward with a small box in his hands. This. Shopkeeper Su looked embarrassed. Your son also gave me a gift for the new year. This is just a gift in return. I don't mean anything else. During the new year, Xinyu did give Yanzheng a New Year's gift. Shopkeeper Su knew that he was the one who gave the gift. Xinyu never mistreated the people around him. Shopkeeper Su himself also received a gift. Seeing that he could not refuse, Shopkeeper Su accepted the gift. I will give it to my son. Thank you, Shopkeeper Su. Boss Yan, you don't have to do this. My son has always been generous to the people around him. During the new year he always gives us gifts. I know. Yanzheng knew that Shopkeeper Su was persuading him tactfully. He smiled bitterly in his heart. I know how to repay kindness. If it weren't for your son, my life in the capital would not be so smooth. It's just a small gift. It's not worth mentioning. Yanzheng's words defined his relationship with Xinyu. He was just a benefactor. Everything he did was to repay his kindness. There was no other reason. Yanzheng was not wrong. When he came to the capital, although he had some arrangements, if it weren't for Xinyu, it would not have been so easy for him to achieve his goal. Xinyu had indeed done him a great favor. Seeing this, Shopkeeper Su did not say anything else. Let's not talk about this. The last time I went to the northern desert, I found that Shopkeeper Su's lipstick and other women's products were selling very well. The customers there all asked me to bring more next time. Shopkeeper Su, how many products do you have? Yanzheng put aside his thoughts and talked about business. Recently, there are a lot of new products in the store. Boss Yan, you can take a look. The two started to talk about the products to bring to the northern desert. In the end, they decided to go to Shopkeeper Su's store to take a look. Yanzheng's gift and the account book of Shopkeeper Su's store were sent to Xinyu. Mushi came over with the account book. Xinyu saw the extra wooden box on top of the account book at a glance. What's this? Mushi took the box and said, Shopkeeper Su said that this is Boss Yan's gift to you in return. Do you want to open it and take a look? Xinyu faintly felt a little pain in his waist. He waved his hand and said, just put it in the warehouse. Hearing this, Mushi put the wooden box aside and took out the account book and put it in front of Xinyu. This is the account book of Shopkeeper Su's store last month. Please take a look. Xinyu was happy to delegate power to his subordinates, but he still had to do things that needed to be done. For example, he had to check the account book every month. Trust was one thing, but he still had to do what needed to be done. When Shang Junlin came back after dealing with the affairs of the imperial court, Xinyu was still looking at the account book. Because there were always new products, the business of Shopkeeper Su's store was very good. At present, in addition to the 3 branches in the capital, there were also branches in other places. These women's products were very popular in the south, where there were many prominent families. There were also many branches there. This caused more and more account books to be sent to Xinyu every month. Her Majesty is back. Xinyu put down the pen and rubbed his wrist. Shang Junlin came over and took over his work. He gently pressed his wrist and said, these things can be handed over to the subordinates. You don't have to do it yourself. Xinyu thought about it and agreed. He asked, is there a palace servant who is good at this in the palace? Shang Junlin looked at eunuch Meng. If your Majesty doesn't mind, you can hand this matter over to Meng Yuan. He has been sensitive to numbers since he was a child, eunuch Meng said. Meng Yuan, also known as eunuch Meng, was currently the head eunuch of Yuzhong Palace. He was in charge of all the affairs of Yuzhong Palace and was very busy every day. Won't it be too much of a bother to him? What are you talking about, Your Majesty? It's that boy's fortune to be able to work for your majesty. If your majesty needs anything, just let me know. Eunuch Meng smiled kindly. The people in the palace were not afraid of having too many things to do, but of having nothing to do. Instead of being busy, they couldn't be idle. The more things they had to do, the more important they were to their masters, and the more respected they would be. Well, Mushi, send these account books to Meng Yuan. Tell him to come to me after he's done with them. Xinyu trusted Meng Yuan's ability very much. In such a big Yuzhang palace, there was basically no trouble in his hands. He didn't need to worry about big or small matters. Mushi left with the account books in her arms. Xinyu stood up and walked around the room twice. He had been sitting for too long and needed to move. Shang Junlin followed him around the room. Today the imperial court has set the time to execute Prince Yu. After a moment of silence, Shang Junlin suddenly spoke. After delaying for so long, it should be set. What about Grand Tutor Zeng? Has it been set as well? Shang Junlin observed Xin Yu's expression. Seeing that there was no change in his expression, his mood became a little better. Yes, it's been set as well. Xin Yu thought of the trap that the late emperor left for Shang Junlin, and couldn't help but ask. This matter has finally been settled. He's guilty of treason. If your majesty wants to kill him, no one will object, right? It's about his own life. Who would dare to stand up for him? Shang Junlin stopped and tightened his grip on Xin Yu's wrist. On that day, does you want to go and see? Witness the death of Prince Yu with his own eyes. Chapter 200. Xin Yu didn't plan to go, but Shang Junlin's words reminded him of something. He had read so many novels, and the protagonists in those novels always came back from the jaws of death. What about King Yu? As one of the protagonists in the novels he read after his death, could he still come back from the jaws of death? Your Majesty, please come with me. Xin Yu looked into Shang Junlin's eyes. After all this trouble, I want to see the ending with my own eyes. Okay. King Yu's execution date was set to be 17 days later. On a day when everything should be revived, King Yu would welcome his death. Xin Yu was waiting for the arrival of that day. In his previous life, he stabbed King Yu's lifeline at the last moment, and changed the ending in the novel. He didn't know what the ending of the story would be after his death, but this time, he didn't need to risk his life to send King Yu to hell. He could see with his own eyes whether the world would change after King Yu's death. There was still a long way to go. After knowing the date, Xin Yu put this matter to the back of his mind. As for King Yu, the grudges in his previous life had been settled, and the ending in this life was about to be revealed. Instead of focusing on this matter, it was better to pay more attention to other things. When everything was about to end, the ministers of the aristocratic families in the imperial court finally discovered the undercurrent of the people. If the aristocratic families were determined to investigate something, it would be difficult for anything that happened in the capital to escape their eyes. At first, one of them found that something was wrong. After ordering someone to investigate, the result surprised him. He didn't have time to think and immediately passed the news to the other aristocratic families. Not long after, the aristocratic families received the news one after another. The aristocratic families have received the news about the new printing method given by a Yu. Shang Junlin picked up a piece of walnut cake from the small kitchen and fed it to Xin Yu. The walnut cake was very sweet. It was the taste that Xin Yu liked. He opened his mouth and ate the walnut cake. Did they do anything? I haven't acted rashly for the time being. However, I believe that in a few days, the news that the method was leaked from Ayu's bookstore will be exposed. Shang Junlin used his finger to wipe away the crumbs from the corner of Xin Yu's mouth. This matter will be known by the aristocratic families sooner or later. We can't hide it forever. If they find out by themselves, we won't have to think of a way to tell them. The walnut cake was a little dry. Xin Yu took the teacup on the side and drank 2 mouthfuls. Do you want me to send some people to the bookstore? During this period of time, the aristocratic families will probably make a move. Shang Junlin retracted his hand. He could still feel the young man's smooth skin on his fingertips. His Majesty reminded me. I will write a letter to Boss Yi and tell him to be careful during this time. Xinyu put down the teacup and put his hands around Shang Junlin's neck. As for the bookstore's safety, I will have to trouble your majesty. It was true that Xinyu had Yinghua, but Yinghua had just been developed. It was inevitable that there would be mistakes if it was to go against the aristocratic families that had hundreds of years of history in the capital. Xinyu had always cherished the capable people under him. He didn't want to see the bookstore suffer irreversible damage because of this. I will ask the hidden dragon guards to keep an eye on the aristocratic families. Also, Your Majesty should also ask people to keep an eye on the other bookstores that we are collaborating with. Xinyu's bookstores had his support, but the other bookstores didn't. No one could guarantee that the aristocratic families wouldn't make a move on them. You don't worry. No matter what, they are helping me. I will not leave them alone. Against the aristocratic families, those bookstores didn't have the power to fight at all. Without Shang Junlin's protection, they could be easily destroyed by the aristocratic families. The aristocratic families acted quickly. After finding out the source, they immediately went to the bookstores. Boss Yi had been warned by Xinyu. He was already prepared for this. When the aristocratic families made a move, he reacted immediately. The people faintly felt the undercurrent under the calm surface. Overnight, a lot of people suddenly appeared to speak ill of the bookstores. The few bookstores that were the focus of attention happened to be the ones that they could afford to buy some books after the price was lowered. Because Jing Security News was organized in cooperation with the imperial court, the aristocratic families didn't dare to do too much in the first place. They always had to test the waters first to determine how far they could go. The common people wouldn't know about these hidden schemes and games. After the beginning of spring, the flowers and plants in Yuzhong Palace glowed with new vitality. Yuzhong Palace was the most beautiful palace in the imperial harem. After Xinyu moved in, Shang Junlin was keen on stuffing things inside. Now, Yuzhong Palace was more magnificent than before. Even the emperor himself lived here. All the resources of the palace were tilted to this side. The food in the palace was good, and Shang Junlin raised him well. Today's Xinyu was better than before in all aspects. Shang Junlin tied up the young man's hair. Because there were still a few months before he turned 20, he still didn't wear a crown. His black hair was only tied behind his head with a hairband of the same color as his clothes. Your Majesty is getting more and more familiar with it. Xinyu stood up and straightened his robe. Shang Junlin pinched Xinyu's face. Is you satisfied? As long as it's Your Majesty, I'm satisfied with anything. Pleased by Xinyu's words, Shang Junlin's mouth slightly curved. Yu's mouth is really like honey. Xinyu gathered the hair on the side of his neck. Does Your Majesty like it? I like it. He put his thumb on her soft lips and gently pressed. It's very sweet. The tip of Xinyu's tongue swept over and touched the finger on her lips. Facing the man's suddenly dark eyes, she blinked innocently. It's not sweet. I'll try it. Shang Junlin's voice was slightly hoarse. After he finished speaking, he withdrew his finger from Xinyu's lips. Xinyu's chin was gently lifted. The man's breath came closer and finally fell on her lips. Their lips touched, sucked, gently ground by the tip of his teeth, and attacked. Xinyu half closed her eyes and responded. It's sweet, very sweet. Shang Junlin's voice was vague as if it came through a thin fog. Xinyu's body went soft. Her whole body weight was supported by the man's arm. Her fingers subconsciously wanted to grab something, and she clenched the cloth under her hand. Before everything became out of control, Xinyu stopped Shang Junlin's further actions. Don't, we still have to go out of the palace later. Shang Junlin paused for a moment. A little later. We can go another day. After he finished speaking, he wanted to continue. Xinyu hurriedly reached out to stop him. Boss Yi is still waiting outside the palace. It's not good to let him wait for too long. Shang Junlin irritably made a tisk sound and let go of Xinyu. Why now? Xinyu hurriedly withdrew from the man's arms and tidied up her clothes. Her hair was also a little messy. After the two of them tidied up, Eunuch Meng dared to call for the meal. During the meal, Shang Junlin thought of something and suddenly said, directly call him into the palace. He won't go out of the palace today. Xinyu looked up with chopsticks in her mouth. What's wrong? It's convenient to meet people in the palace. After meeting him, I'll ask the people from the clothing bureau to come over. Ayu has grown taller, so she needs to make new clothes. Shinyu didn't think much about whether she could leave the palace or not. She nodded and said, Your Majesty, it's up to you. After the meal, the two of them took a walk in the small garden. This matter almost became their daily routine. Every time after the meal, Shang Junlin would take them out for a walk. Your Majesty, Boss Yi has arrived at Yuzhong Palace. Eunuch Meng walked over to the two of them and said. When Shen Yu and Shang Junlin returned, Boss Yi was already waiting in the hall. Seeing the two of them, Boss Yi respectfully saluted. This commoner greets Your Majesty. No need to be so polite. I asked you to come here today to ask about the situation outside. If the bookstore encounters any difficulties, you can ask someone to tell me. I will solve it. The bookstore is fine for the time being. At the beginning, Your Majesty asked us to cooperate with the imperial court to set up Jing, a newspaper. At this time, it has become a protective umbrella. Because of Jing'an, they still have scruples. What about you? Did they make things difficult for you alone? Boss Yi was stunned for a moment. He didn't know what to feel in his heart. He didn't expect that Shin Yu would care about him alone. Replying to Your Majesty, they privately found this commoner 2 days ago, and said that they are willing to spend a lot of money to buy the new printing method from this commoner. As long as this commoner is willing to not use this method in the future, and will not spread this method. Boss Yi said the conditions of the aristocratic family. They are really generous. 10,000 taels of gold, not including other benefits. Shang Junlin coldly sneered. The atmosphere in the hall was getting colder and colder. Shin Yu held Shang Junlin's hand and squeezed it. You continue. The benefits were given. What about the threats? What did they use to coerce you? The aristocratic family had always been domineering. Shin Yu didn't think that they would only give benefits and not say a word about threats. Use the bookstore. They said that if I don't know what's good for me, there's no need for this bookstore to continue. When he was threatened, Boss Yi was angry. Now that he was asked by Shin Yu, he didn't have much emotion in his heart. They dared to say such words. They shouldn't know that the person behind you is me. If they knew the existence of Shin Yu, they would be able to guess that the person behind him was Shang Junlin. At that time, what they would do was not just to threaten Boss Yi, the bookstore's owner. There was no movement in the imperial court, which meant that they didn't know that Shang Junlin was behind this matter. However, it couldn't be hidden for a few days. As long as they started to attack the bookstore, they would find that this bone was not so easy to chew. After understanding the situation, Boss Yi was secretly sent out of the palace. Shin Yu had many shops outside, but few people knew that the real owner of these shops was him. This bookstore was taken over by Shin Yu. During the process of taking over, he didn't show up. Except for Shin Yu's confidants and Shang Junlin, even fewer people knew. After Boss Yi left, the people from the clothing bureau came. They didn't dare to slack off in the slightest to make clothes for the only two masters in the palace. This servant greets Your Majesty, Your Highness. The female official of the clothing bureau came with the palace maids and saluted. With the previous lesson, this time they didn't do it themselves. Instead, they gave the measuring tools to Shang Junlin. Shin Yu opened his arms to let the man measure. Looking at the man in front of him, he whispered, Didn't Your Majesty know? Why do you want to measure it again? It's more accurate to measure it again. Ayu doesn't want to make clothes that don't fit, right? After the measurement, Shang Junlin reported the measurements to the female official of the clothing bureau. The female official hurriedly wrote down the data. Your Majesty, the clothes you asked the clothing bureau to make last time are ready. The female official of the clothing bureau beckoned the palace maid with the tray of clothes to come forward. Your Majesty and Your Highness, please take a look. Shin Yu looked up and saw the dazzling red cloth on the palace maid's hand. You see if you like it. Shin Yu walked over and touched the cloth. It was very familiar. After all, Shang Junlin used this cloth to tightly bind his hands in order to prevent him from hurting his hands. Chapter 201. Shin Yu put his fingers into the cloth and found that it was translucent. The red silk from last time was long and was folded several times, so he didn't notice this. No wonder Shang Junlin said that he could only wear it for him. The single layer of fabric felt softer and softer to the touch, like clouds stacked together. It could be touched, but it also gave off a feeling of unfathomable mystery. The people from the clothing bureau left the clothes behind and left. Shang Junlin naturally wouldn't let Xinyu wear this kind of translucent clothes in front of so many palace servants. You try it on for me tonight, okay? Shang Junlin hugged Xinyu from behind and whispered in his ear. The man's voice was low and magnetic, with an indescribable sense of seduction. His hot breath sprayed on Xinyu's sensitive ear. His earlobe was gradually dyed red, like a ripe fruit, tempting to be picked. Shang Junlin stretched out the tip of his tongue and gently slid it over. Xinyu's body trembled, and even his voice was trembling. Your Majesty! The earlobe was sucked into his hot and moist mouth, and the tip of his teeth gently rubbed over the ripe fruit, as if he could absorb the rich flesh of the fruit. Xinyu clenched the clothes in his hand, and the complicated black robe instantly had a few more wrinkles. The earlobe was released, and the sucking kisses fell on the side of the neck, which was one of the man's favorite places, and was often the focus of attention. Xinyu couldn't break free, so he could only let the man thoroughly bully him. Fortunately, the man didn't intend to go all the way. He just hugged and kissed and nibbled as much as he wanted, leaving a lot of marks. Xinyu touched the side of his neck, and the feeling just now still remained. Just a gentle touch was enough to make him tremble. Xinyu gave up and withdrew his hand, thinking that he probably couldn't see anyone during this time. Why does your Majesty always like to leave marks on my body? Xinyu complained. I have to find a way to cover it when I go out. Winter was actually not that bad. Xinyu definitely had to wear a cloak when he went out. He had a lot of cloaks with fur collars, so no one would see anything after he put them on. Shang Junlin looked at the marks he left behind with an infatuated expression. If it weren't for Xinyu's prohibition, he would have left his mark on the young man's body at all times. You can also leave a U for me. Shang Junlin's voice was filled with lust, and his voice was deeper than usual. Xinyu couldn't stand this sound because he heard it most of the time when he was in bed. After a long time, it could easily arouse his body. Xinyu felt restless in his body. He picked up the cup beside him and drank a cup of cold water. That's Shun's cup, Shang Junlin said slowly. I don't mind drinking from your Majesty's cup. Does your Majesty dislike me? Xinyu regained his calmness, and was no longer in a situation where he was suppressed. Doesn't you know best whether I dislike you or not? Shang Junlin's ambiguous gaze fell on Xinyu. It was like a fire that wanted to ignite the person being stared at. Xinyu couldn't sit still under his gaze. He walked over and covered Shang Junlin's eyes. I know your Majesty doesn't dislike me. Didn't your Majesty want me to try on clothes for you to see? When I'm in a good mood, I'll wear them for your Majesty to see. Of course, Shang Junlin didn't dislike him. Xinyu knew this better than anyone else. After all, there were many things that he was unwilling to do for Shang Junlin, but Shang Junlin did it for him without any psychological burden. Of course, it would be even better if Shang Junlin didn't kiss him after doing those things. Although every time, under Xinyu's strong request, Shang Junlin would rinse his mouth before kissing him. Thinking of this, Xinyu's face became even hotter. What is you thinking? Why is your face so red? The crimson color spread on his jade-like snow-white skin little by little, like peach blossoms blooming in spring. It was too beautiful to behold. Shang Junlin's tongue lightly touched the roof of his mouth. He felt that he shouldn't let Xinyu off so easily. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting more and more romantic, Xinyu didn't want to spend the whole afternoon and night in bed, so he tried to change the topic. Does your Majesty have any clues about the other forces left by the late Emperor? They executed Prince Yu and Grand Tutor Zeng, because they knew that they couldn't get any useful information from these two people. Since they were useless, there was no need to keep them alive. If it weren't for the fact that the late Emperor left behind a contingency plan, Shang Junlin wouldn't have tolerated Prince Yu for so long. We've investigated some of them. Other than the ones already eliminated by Gu Huai, Sun Zhao found 20,000 private soldiers near Prince Yu's fief. After investigation, It was confirmed that these soldiers didn't have any interactions with Grand Tutor Zeng or Prince Yu. If Grand Tutor Zeng didn't lie, other than these 20,000 soldiers, there are still 230,000 soldiers whose whereabouts are unknown. 230,000 soldiers, no matter how you looked at it, wasn't a small number. Also, if the late emperor had enough soldiers, why did he watch other countries invade the Great Huan dynasty and take away its territory? No matter how muddle-headed an emperor was, he wouldn't be willing to be the ruler of a fallen country. Everyone wanted to leave their name in history, not be cursed after death and go down in history as a byword. Perhaps the late emperor didn't have so many soldiers. He said this just to make Grand Tutor Zeng fearful. Or perhaps Grand Tutor Zeng is deliberately lying to confuse us and make us fearful. Shang Junlin suggested a few possibilities. Xin Yu thought for a moment, and felt that it was reasonable. Only he knew how much of Grand Tutor Zeng's words were true and how much were false. What about the other things? Grand Tutor Zeng told us where the late emperor's money was stored. Did your majesty find it? The part that could be used by Grand Tutor Zeng was mostly used by him. The rest, I sent people to retrieve. I now know why the treasury was empty when I ascended the throne. It turns out that the things in the treasury had been moved away long ago. Xin Yu was stunned. Those were all things in the treasury. There were a lot of imperial goods. After the Ministry of Revenue checked them, he told me that there were many things that were once recorded in the treasury, but were later inexplicably lost. Your Majesty. Xin Yu knew that Shang Junlin's ascension to the throne was far more difficult than it seemed on the surface, but he didn't expect the late emperor to go to this extent and secretly move the things in the treasury. Was the late emperor's extravagance and waste in his later years a cover for this matter? Seeing the worry in Xin Yu's eyes, Shang Junlin sighed and hugged her in his arms. I'm fine. I feel that it's not unexpected that he would do such a thing. No matter how many arrangements he made, they will eventually be broken one by one. You will help me, right? Xin Yu leaned in the man's arms and nodded gently. In a place where Xin Yu couldn't see, Shang Junlin's mouth curved up. His Yu was the most soft-hearted. He didn't care about what the late emperor did, but he cared about Xin Yu. If Yu could be more soft-hearted towards him because of the late emperor's matter, and be more reluctant to leave him, it would be best. Because the remaining half wasn't found, this matter wasn't made public for the time being. Grand Tutor Zeng gave a lot of things, and Shang Junlin sent a special official to handle each of them. If the information was verified to be true, then it would be dealt with accordingly. After Gu Huai completed his task and returned to the capital, he didn't get a promotion, but the imperial court gave him the general's mansion, which was located in a bustling area of the capital. The previous owner of this mansion was the once prominent Lin family. The Lin family had been generals for generations, and had made outstanding contributions to the Great Huan Kingdom. If the late emperor didn't listen to slanderous words, the Lin family wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. After the Lin family was defeated, the military strength of the Great Huan Kingdom declined sharply, and no one could resist the foreign enemy. Facing the invasion of other countries, the imperial court didn't do anything and was powerless to do anything. Congratulations, General Gu. After the court, the officials wanted to be on good terms with Gu Huai, a rising star. After this incident, anyone with eyes could see that Gu Huai had a promising future. In the imperial court, the attitude of the emperor was very important, and Shang Junlin's intention to nurture Gu Huai was obvious. In addition, Gu Huai was a military general and didn't have much to do with the civil officials, so the officials didn't mind being on good terms with him. After a simple greeting, Gu Huai bid farewell to the officials and left the palace. He didn't go to the newly bestowed general's mansion, but instead went to Grand Tutor Gu's mansion. Grand Tutor Gu wasn't on duty today, and was drying herbs in the courtyard. When he saw Gu Huai in his official robes, he was stunned. "Brother, I'm back." With a clang, the basket of herbs in his hand fell to the ground. Gu Huai walked in and naturally squatted down to pick up the herbs on the ground. "Brother, why are you so careless?" Grand Tutor Gu stared blankly at the youth squatting on the ground. No, it was no longer accurate to call him a youth. After not seeing him for half a year, Gu Huai had greatly changed compared to when he left. The contours of his face were more firm, and the aura between his eyebrows was domineering. He had matured a lot, and the immaturity on his face had completely faded. The current Gu Huai was a completely mature man. He wasn't a spoiled youth who stuck to his side. Grand Tutor Gu came back to his senses and squatted down as well. I can do it myself. Gu Huai's hands paused. Brother, you don't want me anymore? How can that be? Then why are you so distant with me? I'm not used to it. You've changed too much. When you returned to the capital, I went to see you and almost didn't recognize you. Xiao Huai, you've grown up. Gu Huai was somewhat happy. I also saw you, but it wasn't convenient to talk to you at that time. Brother, I can protect you in the future. Brother, I don't want to live in the general's residence. There's no one there. It's cold and cheerless. Can I continue to stay here? After picking up the herbs, Gu Huai asked softly. This is also your home. Of course you can stay here if you want. When the youth was here, he didn't feel the constant chatter by his ear. After the youth left, Grand Tutor Gu suddenly realized how cold and cheerless it was to live alone. Now that he heard that Gu Huai wanted to stay, his heart was filled with joy. Some officials who wanted to be on good terms with Gu Huai came to visit. When they found out that Gu Huai wasn't living in the general's residence, but in the same place as his elder brother, they sighed inwardly. It was basically impossible to keep a secret in the imperial court. In just a few days, Shang Junlin also learned of this news. That brat Gu Huai didn't want to live in the residence I gave him. He insisted on squeezing in with Grand Tutor Gu. If he hadn't asked for this residence himself, I would have suspected that he wasn't satisfied with the residence I gave him. Did he ask for the Lin residence himself? I thought that your majesty casually gave it to him. Xinyu was surprised. The Lin family's situation is special. I've kept this residence until now. In fact, I plan to keep it forever. I never thought of giving it away. Shang Junlin always had a special feeling towards the Lin family. Xinyu searched his memory and found information about the Lin family. Before the Lin family declined, they were famous. Shang Junlin's first place in the army seemed to be under the Lin family. Why did your majesty change your mind and give away the residence? Xinyu thought of a possibility. Is Gu Huai related to the Lin family? Chapter 202. He may be the last descendant of the Lin family in this world, Shang Junlin said. About the Lin family. Xinyu had heard about the Lin family. The Lin family was a loyal family, but because the previous emperor was muddle-headed and listened to the traitors, the whole family was slaughtered. Even the babies in their swaddling clothes were not spared. Many ministers who tried to plead for mercy for the Lin family were implicated. They were either demoted or dismissed. There were even some old ministers who resigned in anger and retreated to the mountains. The treacherous officials used this incident to eliminate dissidents. It was after this incident that the imperial court was almost controlled by the treacherous officials. There were many strange things in the past, but no one dared to mention it. I believe that your majesty can deal with these remaining problems. Xinyu rubbed Shang Junlin's shoulder. You have so much confidence in me? Xinyu nodded. In his previous life, no one cared about these innocent souls who died in vain. In this life, the opportunity was in front of him. He should clear their names. Why is a youth so concerned about so many things? Shang Junlin lifted a strand of the young man's hair and played with it in his hand. Because I want Dahuan to become better and better under your majesty's rule. Is it because of me? Yes, your majesty is my husband. I hope that when my husband is mentioned by others, it is only words of praise. Shang Junlin's heart was moved. He always thought that Xinyu took out all kinds of things and made all kinds of plans because he cared about the common people and was born with compassion. Now, Xinyu told him that he did all this only because of him. Shang Junlin hugged Xinyu tightly. He never cared about being a good emperor. His original intention of taking the throne was because if it was someone else who sat on the throne, he would die. Everyone wanted him to die, but he did not. He not only wanted to live well, but also to stand at the top. Yu hoped that he would be a good emperor, and he would do it. He would let everyone talk about them in the future with envy and praise. He would give his Yu the best in the world. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of King Yu's execution. Shen Yu and Shang Junlin changed into casual clothes and left the palace. Eunuch Meng was already used to his two masters leaving the palace from time to time, so he was familiar with taking care of everything. The streets were bustling with noise and excitement. The commoners had been worried about such a big matter for a long time. Now that the dust had settled and the leader of the rebel army and the mastermind had been arrested and were about to be executed, the commoners all came to watch. Shen Qingran was mixed in the crowd. He was at a loss. He had nothing now. His last escape route had almost become his life-taking talisman. Did he transmigrate just to witness how Shen Yu's life was going smoothly? Shang Junlin didn't take Shen Yu directly to the place where the execution would take place. Instead, he chose a tea house where he could see what was going on there. The crowd below was surging, and there was a lot of discussion. Shen Yu watched the Prince of Yu being escorted to the execution platform. He couldn't tell what he was feeling in his heart. He seemed to be thinking about a lot of things, but also seemed to be thinking about nothing at all. Shen Yu's hand on the table was held. He raised his eyes and said, "Your Majesty, if you don't want to watch, let's go back to the palace." In fact, this tea house was quite far from the place where the execution would take place. Even if they watched, they could only see the general situation. Shang Junlin didn't want Shen Yu to see a bloody scene. Before leaving the palace, he asked again and again. It was Shen Yu who wanted to come here. "I'm fine." Shen Yu shook his head. He came here to confirm the death of the Prince of Yu. He also wanted to confirm whether the plot in this life really jumped out of the story. Seeing that he insisted, Shang Junlin held his hand tightly and didn't say anything else. On the execution platform, it was rare for the Prince of Yu to be completely sober. He was very clear about what kind of ending was waiting for him. That day in the prison, Shen Yu's words broke all his fantasies. He didn't know how Shen Yu knew the content of his dream. But after that sentence, every time he fell into a dream, he would dream of the scene of being stabbed in the heart by the young man. It was as if the young man wanted to make up for every previous dream. Every day after that, as long as he fell asleep, he would dream of the scene he didn't want to see the most. He experienced the process of his death over and over again. The dream was so clear that it completely restored every moment. The process of being stabbed in the heart and waiting for death was repeated over and over again. The Prince of Yu almost went crazy. He was held down by the guards. He turned his head and looked at a certain place. His eyes narrowed. He saw a very familiar figure. It was too familiar. It was so familiar that it appeared again and again in the nightmare. Shen Yu. He couldn't help but chuckle. He reached the peak because of this person, but it was also because of this person that he was sent to hell at the highest point. Whether in the dream or in reality, he failed miserably because of this person. It was like a joke. In the afternoon, Shen Yu's eyes were blinded by the glaring sunlight. When he opened his eyes again, everything was already over. The Prince of Yu was dead. The sky was still clear outside. Nothing had happened. Shen Yu's invisible boulder fell to the ground. His eyes gradually focused. It was very lively downstairs. The wicked received the punishment they deserved. The common people felt very satisfied. Feeling an unkind gaze on him, Shen Yu looked over. It was Shen Qingran. Shen Yu hadn't seen the other protagonist in the novel for a long time. One of them was upstairs, and the other was in the crowd. Their eyes met unexpectedly. Shen Qingran was the first to move his eyes away. Shen Yu retracted his gaze. He picked up the teacup and took a sip. What did you see? Someone who doesn't matter. After the King of Yu was executed, the imperial court began to deal with the officials who were involved with him. They were all severely punished. Official Su's family and his in-laws were all sentenced to exile at the lightest punishment. Shang Junlin's punishment was very heavy. As it involved rebellion, no one dared to say anything. After a period of time, the place where the executions were carried out was filled with the smell of blood. This was not a strange thing for the common people in the capital. Not to mention long ago, they had also experienced such a thing last year. What was different was that this time, everyone felt that it was good to kill. Every time a person was executed, the people's newspaper would report the person's crime the next day. Some people felt that Shang Junlin's crime was too heavy, and he shouldn't be punished. The common people spontaneously argued back. This kind of person deserves to die. Yes. When they were doing evil, why didn't they think about the many people who would die because of them? They just had to pay with their lives. How could there be people who think that His Majesty went too far? If you ask me, beheading them is too easy. They have so many lives on their backs. It's not too much to kill them by 1,000 cuts. The knife didn't stab themselves, so they don't feel the pain. Anyway, I don't think the imperial court did anything wrong. Severe punishment can deter those who have similar thoughts. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have a few people. If the imperial court wants to punish you, it doesn't matter how many people you have. Because the imperial court's actions were too big, the common people were all talking about it. When the King of Yu's case came to an end, it was already the middle of April. The weather was gradually getting warmer, and the imperial court was gradually settling down. The King of Yu's fief was taken back by the imperial court. Sun Zhao was promoted and continued to stay in Yuezhou to deal with the remaining issues. The spring sun was good, and Shen Yu liked to stay outside. Shang Junlin ordered people to tidy up the pavilion. Shen Yu spent half of his time in the pavilion during the day. Under Shen Yu's influence, Shang Junlin also changed the place where he wrote his memorials. The sunlight shone in from outside. Shen Yu was bored to death, so he picked up the memorials on the stone table. These were the ones that Shang Junlin didn't finish writing. Eunuch Meng had just moved them in, and the ones that were finished had already been moved away. Shen Yu flipped open the memorials, glanced at them, and threw them back. The commotion was not small. Shang Junlin stopped writing and looked up. What did you see? Why are you so angry? Meng Chang, let me see it. Eunuch Meng, who was waiting on the side, quickly passed the memorials to Shang Junlin. Shang Junlin glanced at them and understood. You come and sit with me. Shen Yu slowly walked over. When Shen Yu came closer, Shang Junlin grabbed his arm and used a little force. Caught off guard, Shen Yu fell into the man's arms and was hugged tightly. Are you angry? Shang Junlin planted a kiss on Shen Yu's neck. I won't do as they say. Why is you angry? I know your majesty won't. It was just that it always made people unhappy when their own people were coveted. Shen Yu saw a memorial about the general election. Every emperor of Dahuan would hold a general election to recruit all the good women in the world into the harem, except for Shang Junlin. After Shang Junlin ascended the throne, he used various reasons to avoid the general election every year. This year, it was the day again, and there were ministers who requested the emperor to hold a general election. You don't have to worry about this. I will take care of it and won't let them bother you. Shang Junlin caressed Shen Yu's cheek. Shang Junlin was a man of his words. If he didn't relent, the ministers couldn't do anything to him. Not to mention, 2 of the cabinet ministers were firmly on Shang Junlin's side. His Majesty is still unwilling to open a harem. After the court, a minister looked worried. It's fine if His Majesty dotes on Guijun, but he should at least leave 1 or 2 children. If His Majesty is unwilling, can we force him to favor women? Who can change His Majesty's mind? After being an official for so many years, who doesn't know His Majesty's temperament? If His Majesty was willing to compromise, how could Guijun be the only one in the harem? This the issue of children. Instead of hoping that His Majesty will marry concubines and have children, you should pray that Guijun has this ability. Everyone looked at each other. They had to admit that what this person said was very reasonable. They had already submitted the memorial. If His Majesty didn't want to accept it, they couldn't do anything. The Prime Minister and Feng Darren were on His Majesty's side. They didn't care about anything other than government affairs. If they wanted to persuade His Majesty, they should forget about it. They might even be scolded first. Shang Junlin's attitude was clear. The ministers understood that they couldn't persuade His Majesty, so they turned their attention to Shen Yu. What if Guijun comes forward to persuade His Majesty? Have you forgotten that it was Guijun who didn't allow His Majesty to have other people around him? His Majesty clearly forbade us to bother Guijun with this matter. If you really go, not to mention Guijun, You will definitely be punished by His Majesty. Before they could discuss and come up with a plan for this matter, another matter came crashing down on them. No one had the extra energy to care about Shang Junlin's harem. His Majesty wanted to reopen the Lin case. Since they have so much free time to keep an eye on His Majesty's harem, we might as well find something for them to do. Xinyu picked up the scroll on the table. His eyes were cold. You is right. The previous emperor left a lot of suspicious cases. If one case can't shut their mouths, then take a few more. After knowing that some people wanted to persuade His Majesty through Xinyu, Shang Junlin warned these people. He said that he wouldn't let this matter bother Xinyu. He would never let the ministers have a chance to talk about this matter in front of Xinyu. Chapter 203. The ministers who were secretly warned would naturally not spread this matter around. After being warned, they obediently kept their mouths shut. After all, this was only a warning. If they really angered Shang Junlin, no one knew what would happen to them next time. Although Shang Junlin's temper was much better than before after Gui Jun entered the palace, it didn't mean that they could escape punishment because of this. Especially when it came to Gui Jun, His Majesty might be even more ruthless than before. With the lesson of the past, no one dared to joke about their future. His Majesty is in the prime of his life. It is indeed too early to worry about this. When the time comes, we will cross the bridge. When the time comes, there will naturally be a solution. Haha. After finding a good excuse for themselves, everyone tacitly agreed not to mention this matter again. It was Gu Huai who proposed to reopen the Lin case. He had made a great contribution. When Shang Junlin asked him what reward he wanted, he rejected everything else. He only wanted to reopen the Lin case. If there was a mistake in the previous case, he hoped that justice would be served to the Lin family. Gu Huai's identity had long been speculated in the imperial court. When he had just returned to the capital, the ministers who had connections in their hands had investigated everything related to him. Although they could not find out his specific background, they found out that he and imperial physician Gu were not biological brothers. He was picked up by imperial physician Gu when he was young. This was not a secret and could be easily found out. However, it was impossible to find out more. If they wanted to reopen the old case, it would involve many things. First, there was the problem of the previous emperor's prestige. If the previous emperor personally stamped his seal to reopen the case, it would undoubtedly be a slap to the previous emperor's face. Second, there were too many victims and beneficiaries at that time. If the case could really be reopened, there would be a lot of trouble to deal with in the future. As for the first problem, the ministers knew that Shang Junlin did not care at all. If he cared, he would not have led the army directly into the palace and used force to obtain the position. After the court, the ministers gathered together. Do you think that His Majesty knows about this matter? About General Gu? He should know about it. Before this, I couldn't figure out why His Majesty was willing to put someone who came out of nowhere in an important position. If General Gu is really a descendant of the Lin family, then everything makes sense. That's right, the Lin family has produced many talented generals. If it weren't for that disaster, the Huan wouldn't have had such a turbulent period. Didn't you say that the Lin family colluded with the enemy and committed treason, and that the evidence is conclusive? Whether it's true or not depends entirely on what the late emperor said. At that time, there were many suspicious points in this matter. Many officials requested for a detailed investigation, but the late emperor didn't listen. He didn't give them any chance to explain and directly convicted them. However, the situation of the Lin family at that time was also very strange. What do you mean? I only discovered this when I was looking through the files. At that time, someone suddenly reported to the late emperor that the Lin family had colluded with the enemy and committed treason. At that time, the Lin family's father and sons were all out killing the enemy. It wasn't that there weren't any people left in the capital, but no one stood out to defend their family. Later on, the Lin family's army was attacked from the front and back and all of them were sacrificed. The Lin family that was left in the capital also met with a big fire. Xinyu and Shang Junlin were also looking through the files about the Lin family. Since they were going to reopen this case, It was necessary to have a sufficient understanding of it. Placed on the table were not only the files transferred from the Supreme Court, but also the evidence that Gu Huai had secretly investigated over the years. In this whole matter, what is the role of Fei Meng? Shen Yu put down the files. He still couldn't understand this point. Shang Junlin had been investigating the matter of Fei Meng, but he didn't find any useful clues. Because of Shen Yu's request, Fei Meng was listed as a forbidden drug in Dahuan. After a year, Fei Meng basically didn't appear again. According to Gu Huai's previous statement, the Lin family was also a victim of Fei Meng. But how did Fei Meng harm the Lin family? Gu Huai has also been investigating. Under the candlelight, the shadows of the two people overlapped. Shang Junlin rubbed Shen Yu's forehead. It's getting late. Rest early. We'll talk about it tomorrow. After reading the files for an entire afternoon, Shen Yu felt a little dizzy. He stood up from Shang Junlin's arms. Your Majesty, accompany me for a walk outside. Okay. Shen Yu was led by Shang Junlin as they walked in the small garden. Moonlight poured down in torrents, casting a faint silver halo over all things. Shen Yu looked up. A big and round moon hung high in the night sky, dotted with stars. It was a beautiful sight. The moon tonight is really round. Shen Yu sighed. It's really beautiful. It's not as good as a Yu. Shang Junlin's eyes were fixed on Shen Yu. Your Majesty, how can you compare me to the moon? Shen Yu retracted his gaze and turned to look at Shang Junlin. He was caught off guard and looked into the man's dark eyes. In my eyes, everything is not as good as a Yu. Your Majesty also said that my mouth was smeared with honey. Your Majesty should be the one smeared with honey. Then a Yu, do you want to taste whether my mouth is smeared with honey? Okay, Your Majesty, close your eyes. Shang Junlin gently closed his eyes. Shen Yu wrapped his arms around the man's neck, tiptoed slightly, and sent his lips to the man's. When their lips touched, the breath of another person invaded his nose. Shen Yu remembered the man's words and stuck out his tongue to taste it. He didn't know whether it was sweet or not, because before he could taste it, the man took away his breath. His waist was restrained. The man's strength was very strong, as if he wanted to melt into his bones. The tip of Shen Yu's tongue was sucked until it was numb. He unwillingly pushed the man's shoulders, but the man held him tighter. A light breeze blew past, lifting up the two's hair. Their hair intertwined in the air, becoming inseparable. Finally, Shen Yu was released. His body was a little weak, leaning against the man's arms. His whole body weight was almost pressed on the pair of arms that restrained his waist. I didn't even taste it. Shen Yu murmured in a low voice. Try again. Shang Junlin pressed his forehead against Shen Yu. His voice was slightly hoarse. Shen Yu shook his head. My tongue is a little numb. Let me see. Shang Junlin released Shen Yu a little and lifted his chin. Open your mouth. Shen Yu obediently opened his mouth and stuck out a small section of his tongue. The tip of his tongue was bright red. Shang Junlin's eyes darkened, and he fiddled with his fingers. Shen Yu quickly retracted his tongue and said vaguely, It's okay, you don't have to look. Is it really okay? It's just that Your Majesty is a little strong. It's really okay. After a while, Shen Yu's tongue was no longer numb. Shang Junlin was still worried. Fortunately, after a night, Shen Yu's tongue was fine. He pushed Shang Junlin. I said it's okay, but Your Majesty still asked Imperial Physician Gu to come. It's not troublesome to take a look. Shen Yu's body was recuperating well, and he didn't need to take medicine anymore. Imperial Physician Gu also didn't come as frequently as before. After taking Shen Yu's pulse, Imperial Physician Gu's expression didn't change. Guijuan's body is recovering well. You don't need to take the prescription I gave you last time every 2 to 3 days. Shen Yu didn't expect Imperial Physician Gu's visit to have such benefits. The corners of his mouth slightly raised. Shen Yu's body was getting better day by day. The happiest person was Shang Junlin. Not only Imperial Physician Gu, but the servants in Yuzhong Palace were also rewarded. The palace servants liked to serve in Yuzhong Palace. The master was easy to serve, and the treatment was good. Shen Yu had a lot of shops. Every time there was a new product, shopkeeper Su would send it to the palace. He didn't need most of these things, so he would reward them to the servants. They were all new products that people outside the palace rushed to buy. The palace maids were very happy to receive them. The Lin family's matter progressed very quickly. Before Gu Huai proposed it, he had already made sufficient preparations. If he didn't have sufficient evidence in his hands, he wouldn't have rashly proposed it. The emperor ordered a retrial of the case. No matter what the ministers thought, they had to do what they had to do. They had to look through the files and re-examine the witnesses. After so many years, even if Gu Huai had enough evidence in his hands, it wouldn't be so easy to re-examine the case. This matter was handed over to Fang Jun. The Supreme Court assisted from the side. Fang Jun was from the Supreme Court, so he didn't need to work with his former colleagues again. Every day, new developments were sent to the palace. Many people knew that there was something fishy about the Lin family. However, the previous emperor was determined to convict the Lin family, even if they knew it was useless. Those who pleaded for mercy or raised objections were either demoted or removed from their positions. Some even lost their lives because of it. A new emperor brings in new officials. The officials that were left in the court today were all selected later. Fang Jun could barely be considered one of those who had experienced the previous emperor's reign. There weren't many left. What they were familiar with was Shang Junlin's swift and decisive style. With the revelation of the Lin family's matter, they suddenly realized how chaotic the court was when the previous emperor was on the throne. There are clearly so many suspicious points in this matter. How could it be decided directly? This matter concerns the lives of tens of thousands of people. How could it be so careless? At that time, you know how ridiculous it was. What's there to make a fuss about? So that's why there weren't many objections when His Majesty ascended the throne? Keep your voice down. Walls have ears, but that's not necessarily the case. His Majesty is the only legitimate son of the princes, so it's only natural that he should take over this position. Furthermore, it was His Majesty who resolved the crisis of the Great Huan dynasty and saved the people from disaster. Logically speaking, this position should belong to His Majesty. His Majesty reversed the verdict for the Lin family because he didn't want the loyal souls to be wronged? Regarding this matter, many officials who knew the inside story had complicated feelings. In the early years, they thought that His Majesty had no scruples. Now, it seemed that it wasn't that His Majesty didn't care. He was just waiting for the best opportunity. Otherwise, why would he choose Gu Huai, who was determined to reverse the verdict for the Lin family? His Majesty had the hidden dragon guards. They didn't believe that His Majesty didn't know this person's background before he chose him. Xin Yu and Shang Junlin didn't know what the officials were thinking. After the matter was handed down, Shang Junlin didn't waste any more time on this matter. After the matter with the King of Yu was settled, Shang Junlin was free for the time being. He planned to take Xin Yu out of the palace for 2 days. Last year, because of an accident, he didn't go out with Xin Yu. This year, Shang Junlin planned to take Xin Yu out again. Xin Yu was trying on clothes. The weather was getting warmer. Xin Yu took off the thick winter clothes and changed into thin spring clothes. Because he had grown taller, the clothes he wore last year were a little small. The clothing bureau rushed to make new clothes overnight. The new clothes followed the style that Xin Yu always liked. It was simple and comfortable. His black hair was tied up with a hairband of the same color. When Xin Yu finished changing, Shang Junlin had already changed into casual clothes. "Are you going out of the palace today?" Xin Yu looked at Shang Junlin and asked. Shang Junlin would only change into clothes without dragon embroidery when he was going out of the palace. Recently, there is a polo match outside the palace. Do you want to go and watch? Polo was a popular sport in Dahuan. Xin Yu didn't play much due to his physical limitations. Will His Majesty play? Xin Yu wasn't interested in watching others play. However, it was different if His Majesty played. Chapter 204. You wants to see me play? This was unexpected by Shang Junlin. He brought Xin Yu out of the palace just to take him out to relax. Polo was a very popular sport in Dahuan. It just so happened that there was going to be a polo competition outside the palace. Maybe Xin Yu would like it. It's okay to watch it with your majesty. Shin Yu changed his mind when he was about to say it. He was wrong at the beginning. Shang Junlin was the emperor. He joined the army when he was young. He was different from the other princes. When others were eating, drinking and playing, he killed enemies on the battlefield and fought for a way to survive. He might not know much about polo, a sport that was more for entertainment. If he wants to watch, I can play. Shin Yu held Shang Junlin's hand and shook his head. I thought about it. I still think it's better to watch it with your majesty. If your majesty plays, I will be the only one watching from the sidelines. Compared to being alone, I want your majesty to accompany me. I'll listen to you. After April, the weather became clearer and clearer. In the blink of an eye, it was the day that Shang Junlin planned to leave the palace. This time, the two still kept a low profile and did not bring many people with them. Eunuch Meng packed up everything, changed into casual clothes, and left the palace with them. The carriage traveled all the way, getting further and further away from the palace. Shin Yu opened the curtain and looked outside. The spring sun was bright and beautiful. A breeze blew, bringing a cool breeze. Seeing that the carriage was about to leave the city gate, Shin Yu put down the curtain, sat back and asked, Your Majesty wants to take me outside the city? To Tsangqi Mountain. Because of an accident last year, you did not have a good tour. This year, I will make it up to you. The carriage traveled for another half an hour and stopped. Eunuch Meng said outside the carriage, Your Majesty, we have arrived. Shin Yu followed Shang Junlin and got off the carriage. The palace servants quickly arranged everything. The scenery of Tsangqi Mountain was very beautiful. As far as the eye could see, it was lush green with all kinds of flowers blooming. Occasionally, colorful butterflies would fly over and stop on the petals. Beautiful scenery could always make people feel good. Shin Yu was not a person who liked to run around. He could stay in the palace for a long time, but if he could occasionally come out to see the beautiful scenery outside the palace, he would be very happy. Your Majesty, please accompany me for a walk. Shin Yu and Shang Junlin walked along the path. Shang Junlin chose a place where there were not many people. After walking for a while, the number of people gradually increased. Tsangqi Mountain was quite popular. Every year in spring, many people would come to play. Students gathered by the stream, singing poems and making music. It was a joyous scene. As he got closer, Shin Yu could hear what they were talking about. Some were praising the beauty of spring, some were talking about the current situation, and some were talking about all kinds of topics. When the students saw Shin Yu and Shang Junlin, they enthusiastically came forward to invite them. Would the two young masters like to come over for a drink? Young Master Yu? Before Shin Yu and Shang Junlin could speak, a young student sitting by the stream ran over. It's really Young Master Yu. When we parted, my companions and I wanted to invite the two of you to have a chat, but we couldn't find you. Now we meet you. Shin Yu looked at the enthusiastic young student, and faintly remembered that one time when he and Shang Junlin went out of the palace, they met a few teenagers who were going to take the exam. This student was one of them. Feeling the low pressure from the people around him, Shin Yu declined the invitation. The young student felt regretful, but he didn't insist. He cupped his hands and said, In that case, we will meet again next time. Shin Yu pulled Shang Junlin and continued to walk forward. As they walked, he said, Your Majesty, were you angry just now? I'm not. Shin Yu stopped, and Shang Junlin also stopped. Shin Yu turned to look at Shang Junlin. The man's face was calm. He really didn't look angry, but Shin Yu didn't forget that when the student came over to talk, the man's arm on his waist suddenly tightened. Since Your Majesty isn't angry, let's go back and meet with them. It's fate that we met. Shin Yu turned around and walked back. His wrist was pulled. Shin Yu raised his eyebrows. Your Majesty? I won't allow it. Shang Junlin pursed his lips. Whatever you wants to do, I will accompany you. Shin Yu was just teasing him. He didn't really intend to go back. Hearing this, he stopped walking. So anything is okay? Anything is okay. Shin Yu nodded. He held Shang Junlin's hand and continued to walk forward. The last time he came back, Shin Yu didn't have the chance to walk around this place because he was induced to fall ill. This time, since he was here, he must walk around to his heart's content. Is that the place where the polo match is held? Xinyu pointed to a place. The terrain there was flat. The horses were walking around leisurely. The people standing at the side were wearing clothes of 2 different colors. They whispered a few words from time to time. Yes, the match will start tomorrow morning, Shang Junlin replied. Are we going to stay here for a night? Your Majesty, what about tomorrow's morning court? Tomorrow is a break. There's no need to go to court. Since Shang Junlin had dealt with these problems, Xinyu didn't need to worry anymore. After walking for half a day, Xinyu was a little tired. There was still some distance to walk back. Xinyu looked at the sky and pulled Shang Junlin's sleeve. The man stopped. What's wrong? I'm so tired, Your Majesty. Let me carry you back. Shang Junlin stretched out his hand. Xinyu hurriedly reached out to stop him. It's such a long way. Isn't Your Majesty tired? How can I be tired carrying you? Shang Junlin's tone was calm. Xinyu observed for a while, and found that after walking for so long, Shang Junlin's expression was exactly the same as before. There was also no change in his breathing. Unlike him, his breathing was already unstable. You is worried that I will be tired? Shang Junlin's tone had a hint of a smile. Even if I carry you and walk for a whole day, I won't be tired. Xinyu subconsciously wanted to refute, but when she thought of a certain person's abnormal stamina, she silently closed her mouth. Shang Junlin didn't allow any explanation, and carried Xinyu by her waist. He weighed her and said in a teasing tone, You can eat more. You're weightless in my arms. Shang Junlin carried her and walked very steadily. The time it took to return was much shorter than before. Xinyu nestled in the man's arms and chatted with him. Towards the end, her voice became softer and softer, almost falling asleep. When eunuch Meng saw Shang Junlin carrying Xinyu back, he thought that something had happened. He hurriedly went forward. Your Majesty Guijun He. Xinyu was awakened by the movement. She opened her eyes in a daze. Your Majesty, have we arrived? We've arrived. Put me down. Xinyu struggled to get down. Don't move. Shang Junlin's arms were very steady. Xinyu struggled for a long time but couldn't get herself out. She had to give up. The palace servants had already prepared dinner. Xinyu washed her face with water and felt much more awake. Sitting next to Shang Junlin, Xinyu massaged the man's arms. Your Majesty, are your arms sore? The young man lowered his eyebrows and looked serious. Under the sunset, his body seemed to be covered in a layer of gold. Shang Junlin was about to say something when he paused. A little. Your Majesty, you insist on being brave. Xinyu complained, but her hands didn't stop moving. Shang Junlin looked at him for a while, and the ink in his eyes became thicker. Your Majesty, what are you doing? Oh, Xinyu's lips were kissed fiercely, and the rest of her words were blocked. She was forced to raise her chin, her lips and teeth were pried open, and she was forced to endure the storm. The next morning, Xinyu woke up early. After tidying up, she and Shang Junlin went to the venue of the polo match. There were many people who came to watch the polo match. When Xinyu and Shang Junlin arrived, there was already a circle of people around them. Eunuch Meng had greeted them in advance. When he saw the two of them, one of the people in charge came forward. Please come here. They were arranged to a place with an excellent view. There were small tables with all kinds of snacks and tea. It was specially prepared for people with special identities. They came at the right time. Not long after, the match officially began. There were ordinary people on the field, as well as the children of officials. The spectators were also the same. The atmosphere in the stadium was very enthusiastic. Xinyu originally thought that he wouldn't have much interest, but when he really saw it, he couldn't help but immerse himself in watching the match. Those who can participate in this match have gone through many rounds of selection. Shang Junlin explained to Xinyu. I never knew that watching others play polo would give me such a feeling. It was as if the blood in his whole body was boiling. Xinyu didn't find it strange that polo was so popular in Dahuan. Compared to the past, it has declined. The person sitting next to him suddenly said, What do you mean? Xinyu was curious. Gongzi, this should be your first time to watch the game. It's normal that you don't know. 20 or 30 years ago, polo games were generally hosted by the imperial family. There was a special venue for the game. If you win the game, you will be rewarded by the imperial family. Compared to the present, people at that time yearned for it. The person who spoke was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was slightly plump. As he spoke, he took something from his neck and touched it carefully. Then he handed it to Xinyu. This was awarded by the imperial family. At that time it was a pendant made of gold. It was carved with the charm of a person riding on a horse and swinging the ball. It was vivid and lifelike. Did you win this, sir? I don't deserve to be called sir. The man put away the pendant. My surname is Ing. This was won by my elder brother. Later, my elder brother passed away. Before he died, he gave it to me. He hoped that one day, this game could return to the way it used to be. The man didn't stay for long. He was called away halfway. Xinyu looked at the field and pondered. Your Majesty, do you know what happened? Xinyu didn't know about this before. He didn't know what happened in the middle. I know a little. The late emperor, before his temperament changed, a large-scale polo game was held in the capital every year. During the last game, I don't know who angered him. Under the atmosphere, the late emperor punished many people. Since that year, the game was cancelled. Later, the late emperor's behavior became more and more ridiculous. This matter was never followed up. Shang Junlin didn't know much about this. When it happened, he was still very young. Later, no one mentioned it. Naturally, this matter was left unsettled. After watching the game, Xinyu faintly had an idea. Before he implemented it, he must first figure out what happened before. Was the previous polo game in Dahuan organized by the imperial family? Xinyu asked on the way back to the palace. It has always been this tradition until the late emperor's incident. Xinyu leaned against the wall of the carriage. He thought of the scene when he was watching the polo game and rubbed his forehead. What is it you want to do? Your Majesty, what do you think about returning the polo game to the way it used to be? You wants the imperial family to take over the game again. Yes. If you wants to, I naturally won't object. It wasn't a big deal. Xinyu could do whatever he wanted. Chapter 205. If Xinyu wanted to do this, he didn't need to do it himself. He just needed to give the order, and his subordinates would do it beautifully. After returning to the palace, everything was back on track. With Shang Junlin's order, no one dared to bother Xinyu with the election. Because it involved the previous dynasty, the focus of the ministers was gradually shifted. When the previous emperor was in power, there were many suspicious cases left behind. The Lin family was only one of them. The other problematic cases that were implicated by the Lin family should be overturned as well. The ministers were unsure of Shang Junlin's thoughts. How should we deal with the Shi family and the Yun family that were implicated by the Lin family? They were implicated because they spoke up for the Lin family. Now that we have to clear the Lin family's name, these families naturally need to be dealt with as well. What did the Prime Minister and official Fong say? The two officials have already gone to the palace to seek an audience with His Majesty. Let's deal with the matters at hand first. As for how to deal with these families, we'll talk about it when the two officials return. After reaching an agreement, the room fell into a new round of bustling. When the Prime Minister and Fong Jun requested an audience, Xinyu happened to be in the imperial study. After listening to the two's narration, Xinyu didn't speak. It could only be said that the previous emperor had committed too many sins. A good situation was played out like this. These days, Xinyu had read a lot of ancient books. Before the previous emperor ascended the throne, before the previous emperor's temperament changed, the development of Dahuan was very good. If it wasn't for the previous emperor's pretentiousness and allowing traitors to harm the loyal, Dahuan wouldn't have been defeated. What does you think? When Xinyu came back to his senses, Fong Jun and the Prime Minister were already gone. Only he and Shang Junlin were left in the imperial study. What the Prime Minister and the others said just now, does you think that we should deal with it again? Isn't this a question for Your Majesty to consider? Why are you asking me? Xinyu blinked and didn't answer directly. You was distracted just now. Now you don't even want to answer my question? Shang Junlin pinched the soft flesh on his cheek. I didn't. Xin Yu wanted to cover his face. Your Majesty, don't pinch me. It hurts. Xin used so little strength and it still hurts. Shang Junlin released his hand and used his fingertips to rub the area where he had just pinched. It was a little itchy. Does Your Majesty want to reopen the trial? Xin Yu asked. The Lin family's matter involves a lot of people. If we really want to look into it, many of the ministers in the court will be implicated. They may not have done anything, but their clansmen may not. If there's nothing wrong with these ministers and they've been working diligently for the Great Huan dynasty, Your Majesty can let the matter rest. The connections between the aristocratic families were not small. It was like a huge net, and everyone was caught in it. After the final discussion, based on Shen Yu's suggestion, Shang Junlin set a precedent for the Lin family's incident. Many ministers in the imperial court heaved a sigh of relief. With a precise order, Fang Jun moved even faster. In the morning court, Fang Jun knelt down with the evidence in his hands. Your Majesty, after investigation, the letter that the previous emperor judged the Lin family to be guilty of treason was forged. The real letter was written by General Lin's adjutant. The other evidence was also prepared by the adjutant himself. General Lin's adjutant was someone who had been following him for a long time. He was very trusted. If the adjutant hid these things, it would not be suspected at all. As for the letter, the adjutant had been by General Lin's side for many years, and was very familiar with his handwriting. It was not difficult to imitate. The relevant evidence and witnesses were found by Gu Huai after many years of hard work. After Fang Jun took over the case, Gu Huai took out the evidence. Although there were still many doubtful points, it proved that the Lin family did not collude with the enemy and commit treason. Gu Huai has so much evidence in his hands. In the pavilion, Xin Yu poured a cup of tea for himself and Shang Junlin. He has been secretly investigating for so many years. He already has enough evidence in his hands. He did not take it out before because he wanted to test my attitude. Shang Junlin picked up the teacup. Now it seems that he trusts Your Majesty very much. He trusts you. If not for you, he would not have taken out all these things in one go. After skipping the testing step, everything progressed quickly. Before taking out the evidence, Gu Huai privately asked to see Shang Junlin. Shang Junlin did not lie. If not for Shen Yu, Gu Huai would not have let down his guard so quickly. Master, why did you give them all the evidence? Under the night sky, the man in black half knelt in front of Gu Huai. My brother trusts Guijun very much, so I decided to trust him this time. Moreover, I did not reveal everything. Gu Huai knew that he was gambling. He had been gambling his whole life. Fortunately, he did not lose this time. Xin Yu had saved Imperial Physician Gu's life. No matter what the reason was, he was grateful. He did not dare to imagine what would happen to him if Imperial Physician Gu had lost his life because of the disputes of the previous dynasty. He had nothing, only his brother. Now that his identity had been exposed, instead of hiding and testing, it was better to end the battle quickly to avoid any more problems. The moon tonight was a crescent moon. Just like that night, he had lost everything. After tossing and turning for a few years, he was picked up by Imperial Physician Gu again. He had a home again. How is the investigation of Fei Meng? Replying to Master, this subordinate found that Spring Pavilion secretly sold a batch of Fei Meng to the outside world. Forgive this subordinate for being incompetent and not being able to find out the identity of the buyer. It's not your fault. At that time, no one knew that Fei Meng had other effects besides being an aphrodisiac. Epidemic? How laughable. Why did it have to be the Lin family and the Lin family army who contracted the epidemic? Some truths were deliberately hidden. For example, the true cause of the Lin family's death and the true reason for the Lin family army's defeat were not because they wanted to lose to the enemy. They were just holding on. How could they defeat the enemy, who came prepared and knew all their weaknesses? There were many things that Gu Huai did not know in his early years. Over the years, he had taken in the old subordinates of the Lin family and pieced together the truth bit by bit. The more he understood, the angrier he became. He sent the evidence he found to Fang Jun, but only a part of it was sent. However, this part was enough. It was enough to prove to the world that the Lin family had died unjustly. It was enough to strip the Lin family of the crimes that should not have been committed. General Gu, please wait. After the morning court, Gu Huai was stopped by someone. He stopped in his tracks. Minister of Revenue, I called you to ask you some questions about the Lin family. Could you spare some time to talk in private? Gu Huai did not know why the Minister of Revenue wanted to talk about the Lin family, but he did not refuse. General, have you heard of the Min Pao? The Minister of Revenue asked after taking a seat. I have. Gu Huai was stunned. He did not expect the Minister of Revenue to suddenly mention this. It's like this. We want to know about the Lin family through the Min Pao. There are some details that we hope the General can clarify for us. So it's about this matter. Minister, if you have any questions, just ask directly. Gu Huai knew about the Min Pao, and he knew that the Min Pao almost dominated the direction of public opinion. He had read a few issues out of curiosity, and felt that the Min Pao was indeed an existence that could represent the attitude of the imperial court. The two talked for a long time. A few days later, the Min Pao published the Lin family's matter. The Lin family army might not be very familiar to the younger generation, but to the older generation, it was an existence that could be heard in great detail. So the Lin family was framed by scoundrels? After so many years, the Lin family's injustice has finally been cleared. My husband's spirit in heaven can also rest in peace. This auntie's husband is. I used to be in the Lin family army. This old woman has endured until now just to wait for the day when the imperial court is willing to give them justice. Finally, I have waited until the end of my life. Since the founding of Dahuan country, the Lin family has shouldered the heavy responsibility of guarding the country for the emperor. However, they have met with such an end. People's hearts are really not what they used to be. Fortunately, His Majesty is willing to overturn the case for the Lin family. His Majesty is really a good ruler. He thinks about Dahuan and the people in all aspects. After the Lin family's matter was revealed, the streets and alleys were all talking about the Lin family. After several reversals, Shang Junlin's reputation had become extremely good. The people spontaneously attributed the credit to him. In the imperial palace, Xinyu listened to Mushi talk about the situation outside. Mushi, young master, you don't know how good His Majesty's reputation is now among the people. Everyone says that it is the blessing of several lifetimes to have met such a good ruler. Xinyu, the main reason is that the previous emperor did too many wrong things. His Majesty just corrected these mistakes. Mushi, if it were up to me, young master also contributed greatly. If it weren't for young master, His Majesty might not have cared about these things. Xinyu, what are you saying? Don't say it again in the future. Mushi, young master is protecting His Majesty. I know. I promise I won't say it again in the future. Xinyu put down the book in his hand. Isn't it time for His Majesty to come back? As they were talking, Shang Junlin came in with eunuch Meng and the others. Mushi lowered her head and smiled secretly. What are you talking about? Why do I hear you calling me? Shang Junlin lifted his robe and sat beside Xinyu. I'm talking about how popular His Majesty is. Xinyu admitted directly. Because of the Lin family? Shang Junlin raised his eyebrows slightly. Yes. Has His Majesty also heard about it? Xinyu tilted his head and rubbed Shang Junlin's shoulder. The Minister of Revenue even specially went to Gu Huai for this matter. He asked for some details and wrote them in the newspaper. Shang Junlin stroked Xinyu's forehead. Xinyu raised his head. Is Gu Huai really a member of the Lin family? Didn't the Lin family all? Shang Junlin nodded. At that time, there was a mole in the Lin family. After Madame Lin's wet nurse found out, she swapped the identity of her child with Madame Lin's child at the last moment. Then, she sent the child out of the residence through a servant. Just as this was done, something happened in the Lin residence. The wet nurse didn't have time to tell anyone. So that's why everyone thought that the Lin family didn't have any descendants. Xinyu touched his lips. Gu Huai has been investigating the incident all these years. he cares so much about Fei Meng. What role did Fei Meng play in this incident? Gu Huai refused to say, but the hidden dragon guards found out that the incident that happened to the Lin family seemed to be related to Fei Meng. At that time, the Lin family was falsely accused of colluding with foreign enemies. Many people in the imperial court spoke up for the Lin family. Originally, this matter shouldn't have been concluded so early. However, no one expected that the 100,000 Lin family soldiers would be defeated by 20,000 enemies. Moreover, they were completely defeated. Because of this incident, the Lin family was accused of colluding with foreign enemies. According to the strength of the Lin family soldiers, they should be able to fight against 200,000 enemies. How could they be defeated by a mere 20,000 enemies? There must be something hidden in this incident. Shen Yu thought about what happened in his previous life and continued. Did the Lin family soldiers act strangely at that time? What if the Lin family soldiers were already at the end of their rope? Chapter 206. Shen Yu asked this because he suddenly thought of another use of Fei Meng. Someone deliberately used it to create an epidemic. In his previous life, Shen Yu had personally experienced this purgatory scene. Since someone used Fei Meng to create an epidemic, then what about this life? Gu Huai had been investigating Fei Meng all this time. Did he know something? All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. Shen Yu knew that if he wanted to confirm this point, directly asking Gu Huai was the fastest way. Shen Yu, Your Majesty, can you let Gu Huai enter the palace? Shang Junlin. Does you know something? Shen Yu. The Lin family army's defeat is too strange, and Gu Huai is also investigating Fei Meng. Your Majesty, do you still remember what I said about Fei Meng before? There is a new drug made from a mixture of drugs that can make people show signs of being infected with the disease. I suspect that the Lin family's defeat is related to Fei Meng. Gu Huai's true identity was not announced to the public for the time being. Because of the Lin family, he had become the focus of attention of the court officials during this period. There were all kinds of visiting cards, and there were countless people who wanted to be on good terms with him. There were also many aristocratic families who liked his identity and appearance, and wanted to betroth their daughters to him. The latter were all rejected. Xiaohuai, don't you want to marry a well-educated woman? Imperial physician Gu asked as he put the medical book back. Brother, you want me to marry? Gu Huai's hands paused. You have grown up, so naturally you should have your own family. Gu Huai's hand holding the book tightened. Just as he was about to say something, there was a knock on the door. It was the people from the palace. Gu Huai went out for a while and came back after a while saying, Brother, I'm going to the palace. The emperor had summoned him, so he could only go. Gu Huai was brought to the imperial study by a little eunuch. This subject greets your majesty, your majesty. Gu Huai bowed when he saw the two people. There's no need to be so courteous. Men, prepare a seat. A eunuch brought a chair over, and Gu Huai sat down. Today, I summoned you to the palace because I want to ask you something about the Lin family. To be precise, I want to ask you about the Lin family's army. Shen Yu put down the teacup and said. Gu Huai was used to the way Shen Yu and Shang Junlin interacted with each other. What would you like to know? I want to know, back then when the Lin family army was defeated, was there a hidden reason? Is this secret related to Crimson Dream? Noble Lord is wise and observant. There is indeed a hidden story behind this matter. This subject saved a cook who used to work in the Lin family army years ago. He told this subject that the Lin family army was in a bad state before they left for war. It was as if they had contracted some kind of illness. However, no one reported such a big matter, or perhaps it was suppressed by someone. Since this matter had been guessed, Gu Huai no longer concealed it. Why didn't you tell Feng Jun about this matter? Shang Junlin frowned. Because this subject doesn't have any conclusive evidence. That cook died not long after he was saved. Apart from this person, this subject couldn't find any other witnesses related to that matter. Gu Huai knew that official Feng was a good official who enforced the law impartially. He had already told official Feng all the evidence in his hands. As for the rest, he wasn't completely sure. This subject has been secretly investigating for so many years, but I have never found out who did this. All the clues have been cut off cleanly. This subject thought that rather than saying it out loud and inadvertently alerting the enemy, it would be better to continue investigating in secret. When you propose to reverse the verdict for the Lin family, you have already alerted the enemy. If the person who did this is still alive, they will definitely be vigilant and even take action. If you don't say anything, you will only put yourself in more danger. This subject understands. You want to use yourself as bait to fish out the person who acted against the Lin family? But have you ever thought that that person might not be alive anymore? Xinyu's voice was slightly deep. Too many things had happened since the Lin family's incident. Just when Shang Junlin ascended the throne, he executed many people in the imperial court. Perhaps the person who acted against the Lin family was one of them. This subject didn't think it through. Until now you still don't want to tell the truth? You already have a suspect in your heart, don't you? Xinyu supported his chin, as if he didn't know how much his words had struck Gu Huai's heart. This subject does have a suspect, but this subject can't say it. This subject doesn't have any evidence. Even if your majesty is willing to believe this subject can't implicate your majesty because of this matter. I hope your majesty and your majesty can give this subject some time. This subject will definitely find the evidence. At this point, Xinyu couldn't force Gu Huai to say anything more. After Gu Huai left, Xinyu leaned on Shang Junlin and asked, Your Majesty, who do you think is the person who did this? Could it be the late emperor? It shouldn't be. If he wanted to kill someone, he could just pick a reason to do so. There was no need to do so. Many people were implicated in the Lin family's case. With Shang Junlin's orders, these people were dealt with according to how they should be dealt with. Fortunately, after Shang Junlin ascended the throne, there was a great change of officials in the imperial court, so it didn't affect the officials who were still in office. The aristocratic families were busy dealing with this matter, so they didn't have time to care about what happened among the people. Taking this opportunity, under the instructions of Xinyu and Shang Junlin, the movable type printing was further promoted. Not only in the capital, bookstores and other places also learned this method. By the time the aristocratic families reacted, they couldn't easily intervene in this matter. At this point, how could they not realize that Shang Junlin was involved in this matter from the beginning to the end? His Majesty is really good at scheming. He used the Lin family's case to divert attention and catch us off guard. The officials who were on good terms with the aristocratic families gathered together to discuss this matter. Are we just going to let it go? If this goes on, what advantages will the aristocratic families have in the future? What else can we do? What can we do? Why should we go against him openly? Not to mention that the imperial court is now under his control. Even if it was a few years ago, how many people who went against him had a good ending? His Majesty will not stop at what he wants to do. Let's wait and see. The next thing will only be more unacceptable to the aristocratic families. With the deepening of the Lin family's case, more and more inside information was unearthed. The officials who were wronged because of this matter were overturned. Every day, there would be new developments about this matter in the people's newspapers. After discussion, the imperial court would give a certain amount of compensation to these people. Although the damage caused was irreparable, it would make up for it. When Xinyu woke up from his afternoon nap, Mushi brought him the snacks he wanted. Young master, Yinghua sent back a message. Xinyu was not fully awake, and his voice was nasal. It's from the northern desert. Mushi put the snacks on the table, took out a secret letter, and handed it to Xinyu. When Jiang Huiqing went to the northern desert alone, Xinyu sent people from Yinghua to follow him. After several months, Yinghua sent back a message. Xinyu opened the secret letter and read it one by one. The letter wrote about the arrangement and information of Yinghua in the northern desert, as well as the progress of Jiang Huiqing's case. After arriving at the northern desert, Jiang Huiqing contacted a minister according to the people De Huan left in the northern desert. After being appreciated by the minister, he was recommended to the third prince, who had the power to compete for the throne. After becoming the third prince's advisor, Jiang Huiqing helped the third prince to win the power struggle against the second prince. He was fiercely suppressed by the second prince. The third prince was in a good mood and promoted Jiang Huiqing to a higher position despite the opposition. Later, Jiang Huiqing completed several difficult tasks for the third prince and became the third prince's trusted aide. By the time the secret letter was sent, Jiang Huiqing already had a position beside the third prince. He was highly valued by the third prince, and the third prince would also pay attention to his suggestions. When Xinyu received the news, Shang Junlin naturally received it too. The hidden dragon guards disguised themselves as servants and followed Jiang Huiqing around. It was convenient to protect him and get the most accurate information at the same time. Did you know that Jiang Huiqing was qualified for this task? Jiang Huiqing is a flexible person. When I proposed this plan, the first person I thought of was him. Xinyu didn't deny this point. When he comes back from the northern desert, he can stay in the capital. Xinyu sat on the swing while Shang Junlin pushed him from behind. In the whole world, only Xinyu could be treated like this by the emperor. When the prime minister came, he saw this scene. Eunuch Meng quickly went forward and reported, "Your Majesty, the prime minister is here." "Your Majesty, please go ahead." Xinyu turned his head and said to the people behind him, "You come with me." Shang Junlin hugged Xinyu's waist and carried him up. Xinyu had no choice but to go with Shang Junlin. The prime minister was summoned to the palace by Shang Junlin to talk about Jiang Huiqing's matter in the northern desert. Now that Jiang Huiqing had gained the trust of the third prince of the northern desert, the development of the situation was better than expected. The first step had been taken, and it was time for the second step. The prime minister entered the palace to make arrangements for the next step. Huiqing's actions are really beyond my expectations. The prime minister was used to bringing Xinyu along when Shang Junlin was discussing matters. His expression didn't change at all. If possible, he wanted Xinyu to be an official instead of just appearing occasionally. For example, this time, the plan was first proposed by Xinyu and the candidates were also proposed by Xinyu. They could send other people, but the effect wouldn't be as good as now. The next step is to find a way to delay the internal strife in the northern desert. The third prince can't do it alone. When the third prince is powerful enough, we can send people from Subei to do it. The prime minister said. Yes, only when the two sides are evenly matched and don't let one side become powerful can we delay as much as possible. The prime minister deliberately led the topic to Xinyu. As a last resort, Xinyu said a lot of his own ideas. We can't let the northern desert know that we are involved in this in the short term. Otherwise, under the influence of external forces, they will twist into a rope and unite against the external forces. To do this, we must grasp the timing and scale. After talking for a while, the prime minister left with satisfaction. Xinyu leaned on the back of the chair and sighed. This matter can be solved by His Majesty and the prime minister. Why does the prime minister want me to say something? The prime minister has always been a talent. With a youth's talent, if he enters the imperial court, he will be valued by the prime minister. Shang Junlin knew what the prime minister was thinking. After all, the prime minister had praised Xinyu's talent in front of him more than once. The prime minister is really unique. If it were other ministers, they would probably point at my nose and scold me. The imperial harem can't interfere in politics. Xinyu laughed softly. I don't have such a rule. Shang Junlin stretched out his hand. You come here. Didn't you ask the hidden dragon guards to investigate Zhu Wang? Recently, the hidden dragon guards found something. Xinyu walked over and was pulled into the man's arms. Chapter 207. Xinyu obediently nestled into Shang Junlin's arms and found a comfortable position for herself. What did you find? In the early years, Zhu Wang was active in the Subei region. Later, he disappeared for a period of time. The next time he appeared, he was in Yuezhou. Shang Junlin didn't beat around the bush and directly told the truth. Subei? Xinyu suddenly thought of the young man who was sent back to the capital by official Fang. It's Subei again. You also thought of it, right? The young man who was sent to the capital by Fang Jun said that he was saved by someone who looked very similar to you in Subei. Based on the time, The two of them appeared in Subei at the same time. But at that time, my mother had already passed away. The person who appeared in Subei couldn't be my mother, but she looked very similar to me. Maybe she was related to my mother by blood. I think so too. I've already sent the hidden dragon guards to Subei to look for more clues. Maybe we'll be able to find out the truth soon. Having clues was better than having nothing. Xinyu kissed Shang Junlin's face. Your Majesty, you've worked hard. Helping Yu solve her problems is not a big deal. It's what I should do. The coldness in Shang Junlin's eyes dissipated, and was replaced by a gentleness that he only showed in front of Xinyu. I wanted to reward Your Majesty more. Since Your Majesty said it's not a big deal, then forget it. Xinyu pretended to get up. Xinyu's waist was grabbed. She turned around and pretended to be confused. What are you doing, Your Majesty? I was wrong. Shang Junlin stared at Xinyu. His eyes were full of emotions. After a quarter of an hour, the two of them looked at each other and didn't do anything. In the end, Xinyu compromised and kissed the man's lips. It was a touch. The man's movement to leave was stopped. The man's voice was hoarse. Yu's reward is only this? As he spoke, the man's hot breath could be heard. The man's eyes became even darker, as if he wanted to suck in the person who was looking at him. What do you want, Your Majesty? Xinyu didn't notice that his voice had become hoarse. Of course, I need Yu to reward him well. Their voices disappeared as their lips touched. Xinyu grabbed the black cloth on the man's shoulder. Her white fingers were contrasted against the black cloth. Her fingers tightened little by little, and her fingertips turned white. A small bird flew in from outside the window and chirped a few times before flapping its wings and flying away. Xinyu was kissed enough before she was released. Her body went soft and she fell into the man's arms. She was held tightly by the man who was already prepared. If this is Yu's reward, I don't mind giving you a bit more. Shang Junlin held Xinyu's wrist and caressed Xinyu's delicate skin. Xinyu struggled. Of course, he didn't succeed. Does Your Majesty only want this? He leaned in the man's arms. His breath was slightly unstable when he spoke. If I want more, will you give it to me? Shang Junlin whispered in Xinyu's ear. The hand around her waist moved, but Xinyu held it down. Your Majesty already said that these things are what you should do. Why did you suddenly go back on your words? Your Majesty's golden mouth and jade words don't count for anything in this matter? The two don't conflict. I'm willing, and so is Yu. Shang Junlin simply held her hand and played with it. I've already rewarded you for today. We'll talk about the rest later. Xinyu knocked the man's shoulder with his forehead. I'll remember this. Yu, don't go back on your words when the time comes. I know. Xinyu really wanted to bite the man who took advantage of the situation. The weather gradually became warmer, and the matter of the Lin family became more and more clear. The officials who were implicated in this matter were pardoned. As for those who were still alive, the imperial court sent special officials to express their condolences. Only a small number of people were still alive. Regarding this, no one felt that it was strange. The previous emperor liked to use heavy punishments. Back then, the officials involved in this case had more or less been punished. In addition to the grievances in their hearts, the long journey after being demoted and removed from office was enough to make their physical condition worse. Bai Qiwen was one of them. At the time of the incident, he was only 20 years old. He was a small official who had just entered the imperial court. His words carried little weight. Because he sided with his teacher, he was implicated and his official career was ruined. After being demoted, he wandered around for many years. Finally, he returned to the capital and opened a wonton shop on West Street. When the imperial court rehabilitated the Lin family, he had been waiting for this day. Bai Qiwen took the newspaper and went up the mountain alone. He stopped in front of a lonely grave and took out a match to light the newspaper. Decades have passed. My teacher can finally be rehabilitated and his reputation can be restored. The same thing happened everywhere. The imperial court acted quickly. After Shang Junlin gave the order, the local officials received the news and implemented the imperial court's arrangements. Some people were rehabilitated, and some were investigated again. The people were most willing to see the people who made the mistake get the punishment they deserved. Bai Qiwen sat by the lonely grave for a long time. When he went back, he found that there were many customers in the shop. Many of them were familiar faces. "Mr. Bai, we are here to eat wontons today. You can't quit just because there are so many people." Bai Qiwen smiled amidst the noise. He no longer had the ambition he had when he was young. It was good to live a simple life like now. Not far away, Xinyu noticed the commotion. He pulled Shang Junlin's sleeve and whispered, "Your Majesty, should we go over there and take a look? You wants to eat wontons?" Shang Junlin looked at the hanging sign. Now that he mentioned it, Xinyu was a little hungry. The business is so good. The wontons must be delicious. Shang Junlin didn't mind. He took Xinyu and walked over there. It was Xinyu who proposed to leave the palace today. The Lin family's affairs were carried out in an orderly manner. There were no other major events in the imperial court. Xinyu thought that if they didn't leave the palace now, Shang Junlin would be busy for a long time. Therefore, he proposed to go out for a walk. The two changed into casual clothes and went to the West Street that they rarely set foot in. Most of the people living here were ordinary people. There were almost no nobles. They didn't have to worry about bumping into people they might know. When Xinyu and Shang Junlin walked into the shop, Bai Qiwen had just finished greeting a group of customers. "Guests, this way please. There is one seat left." Bai Qiwen asked them to sit down. They were surrounded by relaxed people in the crowd. They were just a member of the crowd and wouldn't be treated specially. This was a scene that Shang Junlin had never experienced before. "Guests, the wontons are ready." The steaming wontons were placed in front of them. Xinyu picked up the spoon and scooped up some. The wontons were big. The skin was thin and there was a lot of stuffing. When he took a bite, the soup mixed with the meat stuffing rushed into his mouth. It was delicious. The wontons are better than the ones made at home. Xinyu didn't eat wontons much when he was in the palace. Every day, the kitchen would make new dishes for him. Wontons were not special. It was good enough to eat it once a month. "If you likes it, you can ask him to make it for you at home," Shang Junlin said casually. "What are you talking about? If you like Boss Bai's wontons, you can come to eat it every day. Why do you want to ask him to make it for you at home? Boss Bai is an official. You can't just order him around at will." The dissatisfied voices of other guests came from the side. Xinyu held Shang Junlin's hand and whispered, "Don't be angry, Your Majesty. It's my honor to be liked by all of you." This guest just said it casually. "Don't hurt the harmony." Bai Qiwen hurriedly came over to smooth things over. The others spoke one after another. "Yes, I don't think this young master has any bad intentions. Old Zhao, it's time for you to change your bad temper." Listening to the voices coming from all around, Xinyu lowered his head and his shoulders trembled slightly. "If you want to laugh, just laugh. Do you think I'll be angry with you because of this?" Shang Junlin helped him up and said helplessly. Xinyu chuckled and said, "Who told you to talk nonsense?" After the banter, no one took this matter to heart. However, when they finished eating and paid for the meal, they were told that all the money for today had been paid. That person said that the boss of the wonton shop is an official and can't be easily touched by others. "What's going on?" Xinyu asked on the carriage back to the palace. "It's about the Lin family. He was implicated that year and lost his official position. The imperial court sent someone to ask him if he wanted to return to the imperial court. He refused." Shang Junlin sat up straight. Xinyu leaned on his shoulder and felt comfortable. Shang Junlin casually played with the long hair on his neck and said, "Not many people know the name Bai Qiwen. However, you should have an impression of his teacher. He was one of the early court elders of the late emperor, Court Elder Xian. He was Court Elder Tsin's student." Xinyu obviously knew about Court Elder Xin. It could be said that there were not many scholars in the world who didn't know about him. Court Elder Tsin had been honest all his life. He had many students and was praised by everyone as a great scholar. During the Lin family case, Court Elder Tsin tried to protect the Lin family, but offended a treacherous official who was in the limelight at that time. He was framed and lost his official position. It is said that after Court Elder Tsin left the imperial court, He completely disappeared. Some people said that he was assassinated. Others said that he lived in seclusion in the mountains. Your Majesty, do you know where he went in the end? At that time, Court Eldertson's influence was too great. To avoid any unexpected events, there were indeed people who wanted to make a move on him. However, no one knows whether they succeeded or not. After that, there was no news of Court Eldertson. This time, Court Eldertson's students should be very happy that Court Eldertson overturned the case for the Lin family. Xinyu was right. Court Eldertson's students were all over the world. After Court Eldertson overturned the case for him, many of them held big banquets at home to celebrate this matter. Although a person's death was like a lamp being extinguished, no one wanted their teacher to be accused of something he shouldn't be. For a time, there were more and more articles praising Shang Junlin. The chefs of Yuzhong Palace suddenly received an order to prepare wontons for the noble. Since they didn't know what was going on, they could only put down the other food and began to study how to make delicious wontons. During dinner, wontons were served. The imperial chef put in a lot of effort to make wontons that had a unique taste. Xinyu ate to his heart's content and ate a bit more than usual. Xinyu, who had eaten until he was full, was led by Shang Junlin for a stroll in the small garden. Your Majesty, where is the youth that was brought back by Court Elder Fong now? He is currently working by Fong Jun's side. From the looks of it, Fong Jun seems to be planning to train him. Court Elder Fong is really dedicated to De Huan. What do you mean? Your Majesty, look, Court Elder Fong's daughter is in Subei. In the future, she will definitely work for the court. Court Elder Fong himself has always been working hard for De Huan. The child he picked up was also trained by him to work for the court. Isn't that very dedicated? One by one, they were all working for the court. Chapter 208. Ayu is right. Fong Jun has always worked hard for the imperial court. I have always known that. I will make sure to keep an eye on the child he picked up. If he was not disloyal, he would give him an opportunity. If he was, he would ensure the safety of the Fong family. Under the moonlight, Xinyu hooked his finger with Shang Junlin's. He knew that Shang Junlin had sent someone to ask the boy later, but unfortunately, the information he got was limited. After Fong Jun returned, the boy was brought to his side and taught. It was as if he was a junior in his family. How Fong Jun arranged the boy was his private matter. Even the emperor could not intervene. Shang Junlin did not like to ask about the affairs of his officials. If the boy had not said that he had seen someone who looked like Xinyu, he would not have paid him any more attention. The wind at night was very cold. Xinyu and Shang Junlin walked around and returned to the palace. After bathing, Xinyu leaned on the soft couch. A palace maid took a hand warmer to dry his hair. Shang Junlin sat on the other side and read the memorials. Da Huan was flourishing and there were many things that the emperor, Shang Junlin, had to read every day. Even with the help of the prime minister, Fong Jun, and other officials, there were still endless memorials to read every day. After his hair was almost dry, Xinyu waved the palace maid away. He got up and walked to Shang Junlin's side. Your Majesty is still busy? He lowered his head. His hair slid down his shoulders and fell on the table and the memorials. Shang Junlin stopped writing. There are still a few more. Didn't you finish reading the memorials during the day? Xinyu ran his fingers through his hair and moved it away from the memorials. The cabinet sent them in at night. Xinyu looked at the memorials. There was nothing important written on them. They could be handled by the cabinet ministers themselves. Xinyu flipped open the other memorials. Without exception, they were all the same. Your Majesty can just let the Prime Minister and the others approve these memorials. There's no need to go through them personally. Xinyu had noticed before that Shang Junlin was very meticulous with De Heng's matters. He would personally handle each and every matter. Previously, because the aristocratic families were in power, Shang Junlin did not trust them. Now that the aristocratic families had been suppressed, the people who were promoted were all his own people. He could completely hand over the unimportant matters to them. We are used to it. Shang Junlin closed the memorial. Thinking about it, it made sense. Now that the imperial court was under his control, He did not need to personally attend to everything like before. In fact, the Prime Minister and Fang Jun were fully capable of reviewing these memorials. If Your Majesty is still worried, it's fine to have them review it after they're done. There's no need to review it personally. When Xinyu worked for the King of Yu in his previous life, the King of Yu didn't ask about many things. Xinyu was sure that the King of Yu didn't know as much as he did about many things. Yu's words are correct. Shang Junlin placed the brush on the brush holder and reached out to hold Xinyu in his arms. He instructed Eunuch Meng, "Tomorrow, send these memorials back to the cabinet and let them review them before sending them to the palace. This will be the case for future memorials." Yes. Eunuch Meng brought a young eunuch forward and put away the memorials on the table. Xinyu remembered the contents of the memorial that he had casually glanced at and asked, "The aristocratic families want to borrow the power of the imperial court to restrict the printing of movable type?" Shang Junlin. "They most likely know that we are involved in this matter. They sent the memorial to test our attitude." Xinyu. "What does Your Majesty plan to do?" Shang Junlin. "This matter indeed requires the imperial court to step in. If the imperial court doesn't step in, how can we promote this method to every part of Daheng in the shortest time possible? It's too slow to rely on the power of the people." Xinyu. "The aristocratic families will not be happy to see this." Shang Junlin. "We don't expect them to be happy with what we're doing." The next morning, Shang Junlin brought up this matter at the morning court. As expected, he was met with strong opposition from the aristocratic families. This step was completely out of the aristocratic families' expectations. When they saw that the new printing method was only secretly circulating among the people, they thought that Shang Junlin wouldn't want to make a big deal out of it and directly confront the aristocratic families. Thus, they sent a memorial to test Shang Junlin's attitude. Who would have thought that the other party would directly throw a ball at them? "Your Majesty, you can't." Several aristocratic ministers stepped forward and knelt in front of the emperor. "Oh." Shang Junlin supported his chin with one hand and looked down with interest. "Why not? Why not?" Of course, it was because this matter was too unfavorable to the aristocratic families. But this reason couldn't be brought out in the open. The ministers looked at each other and were momentarily speechless. "Since you can't give a reason this matter." "Your Majesty, you can't." An old minister from an aristocratic family interrupted Shang Junlin. Shang Junlin looked over unhappily. "My dear minister, why don't you tell me the reason?" His tone was very calm and could even be said to be warm, but none of the ministers present were foolish enough to think that his feelings were the same as what he was showing. Being stared at by the man's emotionless gaze, the old minister's back was drenched in cold sweat. It was clearly an extremely calm gaze, but for some reason, it gave off a huge sense of oppression. "This minister." The old minister steeled his heart. "This minister thinks that this matter is extremely unfavorable to Dahuan. From what we see, it's not unfavorable to Dahuan, it's unfavorable to all of you. We know very well what you're thinking and what you're doing. Don't think that we're letting this matter rest just because we're not pursuing it." After he finished speaking, the court fell silent. No one dared to really anger Shang Junlin. Countless examples had shown that if they opposed Shang Junlin, they would be the unlucky ones in the end. Now, Shang Junlin had the hearts of the people, and the prestigious ministers in the court were also on his side. If the aristocratic families wanted to control him, they had to first consider themselves. His Majesty seems to be very angry today and punished several ministers. Mushi said as she tied up Xinyu's hair. "What is it for?" It seems that the aristocratic families don't want His Majesty to do something, but His Majesty is determined to do it. Thinking of the conversation with Shang Junlin at night, Xinyu roughly guessed what had happened in the court. "His Majesty hasn't returned yet?" Mushi shook her head. Eunuch Meng sent someone over and said that His Majesty has a meeting with the ministers and asked young master not to wait. Does young master want to serve the meal? Go ahead. The meal in the small kitchen had already been prepared. It was only waiting for the master to order it to be served. Soon after Mushi went out, she brought the meal in with the palace maids. When he was alone, Xinyu was not very picky. Mushi had already noticed this. While serving Xinyu, she said, "When young master eats alone, he is different from when His Majesty is present." "How is it different?" "When His Majesty is present, young master is more picky." Mushi had been by Xinyu's side for many years, so she knew some of Xinyu's habits very well. When he was in Count North's residence, he was treated poorly. Although Xinyu was picky about what he ate, he was not as picky as he was now. After entering the palace, under His Majesty's intentional indulgence, he was even more picky than before. He was not willing to let himself suffer at all. If Mushi didn't mention it, Xinyu wouldn't have noticed it. After it was mentioned, he thought about it carefully. It seemed that it was true. When he was with Shang Junlin, he would always unconsciously indulge himself more. When he first entered the palace, he was not like this. At that time, all he knew about Shang Junlin was from others. He was afraid of the man who was called a tyrant in his previous life. He didn't know when the fear in his heart disappeared. Now, when he thought of Shang Junlin, he only felt full of trust. It turned out that unconsciously, the defense line in his heart had been broken. He couldn't resist this feeling. He originally thought that his feelings for Prince Yu in his previous life were love. Now that he thought about it, if it was really love, then this love was mixed with too many things. Instead of saying it was love, it was better to say that it was a shackle in the name of love that was imposed on his heart. This so-called love drove him to do things for Prince Yu unconditionally without asking for anything in return. Why was he so sure in his previous life that he liked Prince Yu? Xinyu carefully thought about the events of his previous life, but he couldn't find any trace of it at all. It was as if he had naturally fallen into the huge net woven by Prince Yu's love. He lost all his judgment, and was driven by him. Xinyu's head ached faintly. He closed his eyes and stopped thinking about the events of his previous life. Now he could basically confirm that there were many suspicious points in his previous life that he didn't discover. After the morning court, Shang Junlin asked the Prime Minister, Fang Jun, and several ministers to discuss matters in the imperial study. Regarding the movable type printing technology, the Minister of Revenue was the first to know about it, followed by the Minister of Works. Now the Ministry of Works had mastered this new printing technology and put it into use. The results were good. "I want to establish an imperial college." Shang Junlin went straight to the point and said his thoughts. "Like the imperial college? It's similar, but different. I want to establish an imperial college that includes basic education." To establish an imperial college, many things were involved. Whether the commoners were willing to send their children to the imperial college, where the imperial college would be located, what kind of students would be recruited. There were countless problems that had to be solved. First, we will conduct a trial in the capital. The candidates for the teachers are usually county scholars. They don't need to have top-notch knowledge. The students just need to be literate and know some basic knowledge. Hearing this, the ministers heaved a sigh of relief. If it was just basic education, it would be much simpler. You all can discuss this matter among yourselves. Within half a month, I want you all to come up with a basic plan. Yes, Your Majesty. There were also aristocratic ministers present, such as Minister Duan. He knew what kind of impact this decision would have on the aristocratic families, but he couldn't raise any objections. His Majesty the Emperor was no longer someone they could control. After leaving the palace, the aristocratic ministers who had received the news came to find him. "Lord, are we just going to let His Majesty do as he pleases? What else can we do? His Majesty just warned the aristocratic families today. If we jump out to object before the concrete plan is out, what would His Majesty think? If it's just basic education, the problem isn't that serious. I'm just afraid that this is just the beginning. It seems like His Majesty is determined to weaken the power of the aristocratic families. Are we just going to accept it?" Minister Duan's eyes flashed. He thought of something and fell silent. Did the aristocratic families object to His Majesty's proposal? Xinyu was curious about the aristocratic family's reaction after hearing about this from Shang Junlin. Even though it was just basic education, it might not be the case in the future. The aristocratic families shouldn't have no reaction at all. They naturally want to object, but I haven't touched their interests yet. They will just wait and see for now. When it's officially implemented, there will definitely be trouble. Xinyu stood up and sat beside Shang Junlin. Since His Majesty has proposed it, he must have a solution. I won't worry about His Majesty. His Majesty, Imperial Physician Gu wishes to see you. He said that he has found the results of the experiment that His Majesty and Your Majesty asked him to do previously. Eunuch Ming walked in and reported. Xinyu's heart skipped a beat. Imperial Physician Gu was mainly responsible for two things. One was his illness, and the other was Fei Meng. The latter was something that he and Shang Junlin had instructed together. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.